trying to find the middle pull, and this is going to have so much yarn barf, I can already tell. Oh my goodness. Center pulls, listen, they're great when you're crocheting, but they're a heck to find. And if you've got one that's tangled in the middle, you end up with half your row out. There you go. Look at that. Yarn barf. I'm finishing up the last of my last big frog I've got. I saw the end somewhere. Here it is. I'll give everybody a minute to pop in. I've got on a romper, and I think it goes too low, so I have on a bandeau bra to cover up. I think it goes too low. But it's a very cute summer romper. It's very cute. Yesterday I had a big day. Where's my hook? Famous last words. Where's my hook? Oh, it's in my project. That makes sense. Okay. I had a very big day yesterday. I had to go to the endocrinologist. And it's the first time I've been back since my primary did my last blood work for her and noticed, hi everybody, Gypsy. My hair's everywhere. I've got on a summer jumper, and it's the cutest thing, but it just dips too low in the front, so I put on one of those bandeau bras, so you see that? And yeah. I don't know how women wear stuff that dips that low. Ladies, stop it. I went to the endocrinologist yesterday. Serendipitous, how are you doing? Got Sam in here, and so it's the first time I've been back since my primary had done my blood work, and my thyroid had gone from not registering on any of the thyroid tests to jumping to 11. And y'all know that I felt that. That was, my thyroid has really, I knew it changed gears. I knew it took it a few times to jump to change gears, and then boom, we had an 11 on the Richter scale, which had not happened in months. Well, she was amazed because she was like, your thyroid has been dead for 18 months. And I was like, yeah. She's like, this is not possible. And I'm like, don't tell my body something's not possible, because it will do it every time. And she said, are you not worried? Are you not like amazed? And I said, no, because this is exactly what my RSD did to my pancreas during the time that it attacked my pancreas. So nothing surprises me with my body whatsoever. I'm having a good day. I've rested a lot. Yesterday, I was going until like 8 o'clock last night, and I finally crashed and went to sleep. Yesterday was a long day. A lot of traveling. It takes so long to get anywhere from here. Living in the boonies, man. So she was like, your thyroid's alive. It's functioning right now. And she's like, that's why your body is gaining from the medicine. Not only is it gaining from the medicine, now it's gaining like 2 and 3 times as much, because my thyroid's trying to function, and the medicine's making me put on this weight, because it's doing, also 2 times the work. And so everything's sticking to me. And she's like, no more medicine. So I'm off the thyroid medicine. I have the one in case I go tachycardic that I can take that makes my heart kind of chill out. She said, keep it, take it if you need it. My hair has got some cowlicks in it today, y'all. And so I was like, okay, that's fine. That one doesn't really bother me, and I very rarely have to take it. So I was like, that's fine. That doesn't make me mad. And she said, because it's now registering and it's functioning in normal capacity on the test, we can't radiate it. And she said, we've got to give it a few months to show us, if it's going to function or not. So I've got to go back and do some blood work, and they're going to keep a close eye on me. But she can't make that determination until the end of August. And so right now, I dropped everything. I'm just going to deal with no more thyroid medicine, and see what happens between now and August, the end of August. And just give her the blood work she needs every few weeks. That's fine. She was amazed. This is the same thing the RSD did with my pancreas. I'm not amazed, and I'm kind of like, But if it will function, that's great. If it will function. If it doesn't function correctly, then we probably still need to be rid of it, because it not functioning correctly and jumping back and forth is doing more harm than good. But it seems like it's been staying in this lane for a while now. So she wants to give it time. If it stays in this lane and it functions without the medication and it stays in, the normal range, then they will say that I'm basically in remission, which is great that my Graves' disease could possibly be in remission, but it can come right out of remission too. But I hope it is and hope it stays there so that I can stay off all that medicine that made me gain weight and made me feel so nasty. So now it's all about, she said it may take your body a couple, 3 months to get used to being without the medicine again. So we're still going to have problems transitioning out of the medicine. That's going to be better than transitioning into it. So the next few months, next couple, 3 months may be kind of bumpy as far as how I feel and my energy, but she said it should gradually get better and better and better. Yeah, remission does. It sounds really good if I can just stay there or have long gaps there in between the flares and stuff. I don't know if I have hope that it will last because the RSD seems to trigger a lot of things. And so I'm like, I don't know if it will last or not. But I'm definitely going to enjoy that I'm there right now. And I got off that stupid medicine. But if it doesn't function correctly, she said, don't worry. She's like, she's like, we will radiate it then. And I was like, okay. Because I'm really getting irritated with it. She just kind of laughed at me. But she's an Indian doctor, but she's really sweet. But it took me a long time. I've been seeing her now for almost 3 years. And it took me a long time to tell her, you've got to talk to me. You have to know me as a person and talk to me and actually care about me. Or I'm not going to respond well to you. And she's finally gotten to where she actually will talk to me. And so she came in yesterday and was crocheting while I was waiting in the office. And she goes, oh, what are you crocheting? And she's got a little 20-month-old that's, just a little bit younger than the twins. And I think before I go back the next time, I may crochet him something because she's liked everything that I've had with me when I've been crocheting. But she thinks I'm a miracle. I think it's just my RSD doing its RSD thing. She's like, I've never had a thyroid be dead this long and then just start working. And I'm like, listen, my pancreas did this for 6 years. I was basically going to pancreas dialysis and had to take that $3,000 a month medicine, that Creon, yeah. And I said, so this does not. This is what the RSD does when it attacks organs. So either my thyroid has gotten to where it can battle the RSD has backed off and found another target, God knows what it could be, or I'm just in a plateau where my body's going to chill out for a while. I don't know. But I mean, the news I got yesterday was primarily good, so I'm just going to run with that and be happy about that. I'm just so glad I'm off that medicine. I'm so glad that maybe my body will go back to normal. I can shed some of this weight it's caused me to gain. I can feel better, and my immune system won't be so suppressed. Because y'all, the last year or so has been horrible with this medicine. Well, it'll be 2 years in August, so the last year and a half has been horrible with this medicine. That medicine is so hard on your system. And sadly, because I go from hyper to hypo, it's the only medicine they make for people with my condition. So I had no other option. It stunks. I'm a hot queen. That's fun. There's no really at-home way to monitor the thyroid. I'm going to be going every few weeks to give blood up at my PCP, and they'll be sending it to the lab, and the reports will disperse to the doctors to help me with my thyroid. And maybe we can just kind of keep an eye on it. I should know by the way I feel once I get this medicine on my system, because I could tell when I'm hyper or hypo before they put me on this medicine, the way I felt. On the hyper days, I had energy and I wanted to do everything. And I got a lot accomplished. On the hypo days, I was sluggish and did not feel great at all. But it'd take a while for the medicine to get out of my system. When they started me on the medicine, I just felt bad every day. And that was just from that medicine. It's just so hard on you. So they're going to be watching my blood work very close. And I'm just going to kind of hang out in left field, and whatever happens, happens. I've studied enough research and talked to enough people that have had to radiate their thyroid that I know now if you have Graves' disease, it's normally a good option. It's not anything to be scared of. You know, it's a better option than trying to catch an overactive or back and forth thyroid and never be able to. Because with the, you know, I've been on 3 medicines trying to catch my thyroid, but we're always behind it, and we never catch it, and it's always causing me problems. And to have one that at least is not working, that the medicine makes me feel this like mostly the same way every day, would be a godsend. So if it doesn't work out and I have to radiate him, I'm not going to freak out, because at this point, with everything I've experienced, I think I'll be okay either way. My pancreas was fine, and when they did the MRI over it with the coils to focus on it, it was beautiful. It was like picture perfect. They thought it was going to be like cancerous or something like that, but it was picture perfect. It was just the RSD, when it was starting with my nerves, it would pick the weakest spot, and I guess that was it at that time, and it would just shut down that organ. I've gone through interstitial cystitis because of RSD. I've gone through bowel issues because of RSD. I've gone through the pancreas issues because of RSD, and we're just kind of waiting to see what it attaches to for the next few years, because that seems to be its MO, is just find an organ and hound it for a few years. I'm hoping that my eyesight improves now since I'm off that medicine, because I would like to read more than I'm reading, and not feel irritated that I can't read more than I'm reading. My eyesight and how hard it is to I want to read when my eyes don't want to work. It's been a pain in the butt. Oh, also, I shared a link in the post section. My brother has a Whatnot show tonight. I know a lot of y'all have been curious about who's your brother, and you know, because I've told you so many stories. The minute he has a Whatnot show tonight, I did drop the link in the post area of my community, and y'all can click on it. You don't. I mean, I don't know if you have to register. I think you may be able just to watch one. I don't know. But he's doing a Whatnot show tonight. I thought y'all would find that interesting. He's been kind of sick, so he's had to reschedule a couple, and but he's feeling a little bit better now, so maybe things will go off without a hitch. My little chicken for my great niece, she loved it. She grabbed it and gave it a sugar and said its name was Mwah. So she named him. So we had fun Saturday at her little family birthday dinner. And then Sunday I rested because I knew Monday was going to be a hard day. Man, it was. And it was, they had moved offices into the hospital, which meant that we weren't familiar with this office. And the directions told us to park in a parking area, which we did. And we had to walk like a goddamn mile to get to the freaking door. It was off the ER wing of the hospital. Like, why don't they just tell people to park at the ER? Because she only has like 2 patients at a time. So me and Mom got our exercise in yesterday, big time. That was fun. Mom was on her rolly cart. She did good, though. She did really good, actually. It didn't hurt neither one of us, but we just didn't enjoy it. Oh, thank you. I actually put on a little summer romper that's got flared legs. It's supposed to be like calf height, but because I'm short, it's ankle on me. But it's got the big flared legs that billow in the wind. It's one of those. It's very comfortable, but I don't like how far it dips, so I put on one of these bandeau bras so that it covers me. Because, ladies, we don't need to see any reverse butt crack in the summer. So I always have a hard time with clothes because they all show too much. I'm working on my last Practical Magic Big Frog. So he's going to have one blue eye, one green. And this will be the last one I make until I reorder yarn at some point. I'm also, since I finished the gnome and I finished the tiger, I've started the Sabrina doll, or Sabrina Warrior Princess. And I'm also working on the seahorse. Somebody had asked me to do a seahorse. I'm working on a seahorse. So those are the things that I'm working on, but I thought, man, I need to finish him up because he's laid here. His arms and legs and little eye things have laid here and stared at me for 2 weeks. And I thought, let's just go ahead and put you together. So I'm trying to finish his body and put him together. He will be the last Practical Magic frog that I make unless somebody else asks for one. Probably when I get him done, unless somebody asks for him, I'll just give him to Dave so Dave can put him on the Etsy store. And then we start the Sabrina doll and the Booma dolls. Now, the pattern that I'm getting, I've already got it, but the pattern that I'm working it on is from a doll. And the lady that did the pattern, when she bills people for making these dolls, she gets like $100 for her ones that have the longer dresses. She gets $159. Now I'm not going to charge that, but I thought, wow. So I have to crochet the doll, crochet the hair, crochet the clothes. Each piece is separate. You put it on. For Booma, it'll take me probably a little bit longer because I have to crochet the hair and then crochet the beard. So that'd be fun. But I know a couple people had asked me about it. I thought it was cute. I showed Sabrina the doll I was going to crochet, and she gave me the thumbs up. So I'm going to do a few of those. Now, those probably will go straight on Etsy. It'll just be a first come, first serve, because if a lot of people start asking for them, I will lose y'all in the email jumble or forget. So I'm just going to put them up and let David put them on Etsy for first come, first serve. And as long as people are still asking for more, I'll make them as, when I can. They are very detailed. And they're going to take me a long time to get done. Sell it to Serendipitous. They're going to take me a while to get them done because, like I said, it's every article of clothing, strand of hair is created by me. So it's going to take me a little bit. But that's okay. And when I get frustrated, found a factory knot. When I get frustrated, I'll switch back to the seahorse, and I'll go between those two. And the seahorse is going to be beautiful. I am in love with this pattern, and I got it ages ago. The pattern is 90-something pages long. But it's very detailed, so I shouldn't get lost. And she has pictures the whole way, too. But, so the seahorse pattern is 90-something pages long. There's 2 seahorse types, so I'm assuming I've got about 45 pages for each pattern. I'm going to do the elaborate one that's got the knots on the body and the big fins. It looks more realistic. So I think it will be fun to do. I would have to find a factory knot, wouldn't I? It never fails. And I don't want it in my work. Go away. Okay. There we go. But I'm going to have fun with the seahorse because I think with that pattern, I'll learn a lot about manipulation around curved areas. So that will help me quite a bit. I've got a couple things that I crochet that I need to do patterns for. I just need to sit down, take photos, and write a pattern. And I haven't taken the time. I really need to because I think it would probably be something that could probably be tossed up on Etsy, and it'd only be like a couple bucks here and there, but that wouldn't hurt. David wouldn't mind it at all. Oh, you finally caught me in live. Hey, I've not been live a lot lately. The last few months we've been sick, and I've been handling a lot with this thyroid. I knew something was changing. My thyroid's working, and the medicine was fighting my body. The thyroid is fighting my body because the medicine was not making them jive, and that's why I've gained so much weight lately. Because listen, I was down to the point where I was cutting so many calories. Had I cut more, I would have been in such a deficit it was going into dangerous territory. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And she goes, oh no, she said, that's the medicine. She's like, I'm sorry, it's the medicine. She said, and we went off of it yesterday. So I no longer take any of the thyroid medicine. I can take the one that slows my heart down if I get tachycardic, but that's the only one I need to have right now. But I am hoping that once I get all this out of my system and my system calms down, that I can lose the weight that the medicine caused me to gain. Because David's doing great. He's losing weight. Mom and Dad are basically on the same type of diet. Everybody in my family's losing weight but me. And I was the person that kind of spurned on everybody getting healthy, and now I'm like, sorry, you know. And then I found out I've got my 30th year high school reunion on June the 13th, and I wasn't going to go, but my other, I call him my chosen brother from Texas, is flying in, and he's like, and literally the venue they're having it at is less than a mile from my house. So he was like, Elizabeth, you will go. Because I've never been to one, and honestly, that was my friend Tater's thing. He loved the reunions. He loved seeing people. I didn't really care when my chosen brother Dave, his name's Dave too. When he would fly in, I would always see him and his family, and me and him and Tater would get together. But I never wanted to go to the reunions. But he's flying in, going to drive all the way from the airport up here, attend their reunion, and then he's flying out the next morning on another flight. So if I don't go to the reunion, I don't get to see him because all day that day we have a market. So I'll come home, get a couple minutes to rest, and then I'll get up the road here about a mile and visit everybody. And I'm literally just going to stay for a few minutes and come home because he's the only one I want to see. And if I don't go, he will probably end up showing up at my house, which is fine. It's normally where we meet anyway. But he wants me to go. Since Tater passed away, he's been in more of a visiting mood. He wants to make sure he sees everybody when he visits and stuff, and it's been hard losing him because we were the three musketeers, we were the three amigos, we were always together. Those were my people, and it's been hard being without our third member. We miss him something fierce. So that's a wake-up call to have your 30th reunion. I graduated high school 30 years ago. And I turned 18 the date of our graduation, so I was 18. That was my birthday, too. Also, I have to get my license redone, so I'm going to go up to the kiosk they have at the courthouse, and it better recognize me, because if not, then I have to drive another hour and a half to 2 hours to go and have that done. And I don't think that sounds like fun. So I'm hoping the kiosk will do it. The last time I had to update my license, I was working for the state, and I had so many revocation hearings, and we had an officer out on retirement, and she was using all her sick leave before the retirement kicked in. And so we were doing her job, our job. I mean, I had over 450 people I was watching, and I couldn't get free because of the reporting dates, the court dates, and the revocation dates at the prisons. And they called the DMV and were like, can she come in? Next Monday's the only day we can let her go. Can she come in on this Monday? And we ended up having to move it. It was like middle of June before I could get my license. It should have been done by the end of May, but it was the middle of June before I could get it done. And the Department of Motor Vehicles and the parole board had struck a deal, and so I could go in late and get my license. And I was like, how do you know you work too much and you do too many jobs for your employer? Every day is so important, you can't even stop to get your license renewed. And we're so rural to do. And that one I had to have a new picture, so I had to go in. We didn't have the kiosk here then, and so I was going to have to drive out of my 5-county boondock rotation to go have it done. That was hilarious. So that was a fun time in life. I tell you what. I was watching the show with Mom the other day, and the prison door slammed shut, and it buzzed, and she jumped. And I was like, oh my, I didn't even jump. It was such a natural thing to hear the buzzing after the slam. It didn't shock me at all, but it scared her, and I was like, wow, I'm still desensitized to all that. After all these years. Lord have mercy. So y'all, I'm on a wild ride with my thyroid. We're all just kind of waiting to see what happens. I'm going to give this guy a really fat head. We're all just waiting to see what happens. I'm just waiting to see what I'm along for the ride. I'm in control of nothing, but I'm excited about having more energy because we got back last night and it was getting really late. But I told Mama to let me throw out those seeds because it's fixing to start raining here. It's going to rain for like a week, almost solid. And so I got Mom's seeds out yesterday. It didn't take very long. I was already tired, and then I had to get the potato fork because I couldn't find the hoe, and I had to prep the ground. Man, I was tired, but we got all the seeds out, and Mom was excited because she had ordered a zero gravity chair, and it came in the mail yesterday. When I left, she was in her zero gravity chair, kicked back. It was kind of funny. But we got all her seeds out. She's already got stuff blooming. She's already got Touch Me Nots blooming. I just finally could put stuff in the ground because we still had frost like almost 2 weeks ago. Now, I don't have all my seeds in the ground yet because my tiller's carburetor was clogged up really, really bad, and it was having some issues. So Jonah came and picked it up for me so he could put it in the repair shop and repair it for me. So I should get it back in a couple of days, and then David said he'd tiller on his next day off and let me put my flowers out. But I do have some of them out in the tubs, but most of the tubs are saved for edible food. I do have my beans out. I do have my Vining Black-Eyed Susans, my Morning Glories in my tubs that trellis up. I put out some sage and some cone flowers, my gosh. And so I've got quite a bit of stuff out in my container gardens here, but I can't put my big sunflowers and all that other stuff out until David can tiller up the garden area. So looking forward to getting all that out because I've got tons of seeds that need to be used this year because I've had them now a couple years and they just need to be used before they go bad. And I need to get a lot of them used so that I can harvest seeds off of them for next year. Me and Mom are both going to be taking up seeds this year, hoping that we don't have to buy as many next year. I've added to my herb garden too with some bee balm, some comfrey. I'm trying the bone set seeds again. It didn't take last year, so I'm going to try it one more time. I've got some basil out. I've got some chives to put out. My chives didn't come back, so I'm going to try it again. Airports never sleep. When I worked at that wilderness boot camp and the kids had a home pass weekend, I would drive them all and take them, and then I have to go back and pick them up on Monday. So I drive them all Friday and send them home, and Monday and Tuesday I'd be picking everybody up. And sometimes the first one to come in at 9 a.m. and the last one come in at 10 p.m. And the whole airport just got used to me because when I worked at that camp, I wore army fatigues because you're obviously outside all the time. And I wouldn't really know if they were going to send me or somebody else until I got to work. So I had to wear my work clothes. And every time I go into the airport when I was new, I would say, hey, don't let me freak you out. I know I'm in army fatigues, but I'm just here to pick up kids that are going to a wilderness camp. And they would let me pass security to go get them, but I would never ask to go past security until necessary. And then after I got the first kid, I would ask that the other kids be brought to me. But y'all, I would spend 12, sometimes 15 hours in the airport, and I can't tell you how many naps I've taken in the airport, how many meals I've had to eat in the airport. I've had me, a little mama duck with her little ducklings behind her for 10, 12 hours in the airport before, waiting for one more to come in that night so we can drive back from Nashville. None of them ever gave me a problem. They were happy to come back and see me. I always got a hug. They were well behaved. Now, some of the girls I had to send to the bathroom to change their clothes, and I was surprised that their parents put them on a plane wearing that. But I just tell them, go change into your camp attire because your hootenanny's never in style. We ain't wearing that. And they'd go change. I was appalled at what some of the parents would let them come back in, though. Man, I slept at airports, man. Barcelona airport. 14. Oh my gosh, yeah. Those, hey, listen, you make friends when you're there that long. I did. A lot of the people that, would roam and clean and stuff, I'd strike up conversations, and in between surges, I would, chit chat with people. I'd meet some people waiting on flights or waiting on people like me. And I met some fun people, had some fun conversations. But man, I remember one day I had to pick up a bunch and I came back with a migraine, y'all. I was so sick. I was just trying not to barf on the way home. I had like a group of 5 that day coming home, and I was so sick. So sick. And then, the kids would never come back with money because obviously they're coming back to camp. And some of them flew from California, so they'd, been on a long flight, and they would get back and they'd be hungry. And so I would, either if they were going to be with me all day at the airport, I'd feed them at the airport, even though it was so expensive. But then on the way back, if we were getting everybody in the evening, I'd say, wait, and on the way back, we'll, swing through a drive-through or something. And I would get them food, even though the camp rarely repaid me for it. I would feed them because they hadn't had dinner and they didn't have any put up at the camp to come home to. So I'd hate to know all the times that I've either bought, like the kids that were in my therapy groups, I bought them pizza. A lot of them that when I did therapy groups, a lot of them came from a boys' home. And I know, bless that boys' home's heart, I know that they did not get fed the best in the world because I was there teaching classes sometimes when I would see what they would be eating and I'd be like, ugh. So when we would have anything special in group, I would try to get a pizza, and I would hate to know how much I spent through the years on other people's children, but hey, if a kid is spending time with me, basically they're just my kid for that duration, so I'm going to feed them and try to treat them well. I flew to Texas and back to spend time with one of my friends, and we are no longer friends, and I miss her so much. But when COVID happened, she went kind of crazy, and she would watch the news and get all emotional and amped up, and then call and like yell at me because she was mad at the news. And I told her I didn't appreciate that, and her daughter did that to her, and she was like, "Why does she do that to me?" And I was like, "Could it be that she's learned this from you because you're now doing that to me?" And she thought I was being sassy, but I was just being honest, and she got mad at me. But I would have to tell her when we talked, hey, you don't have to deal with everything on the news. The only thing you have to deal with is what comes to your front door. That's all you can control is you and your environment. And I said, you live in a gated community, so you're doing a lot better than most of us. And it wasn't enough. And then one day, I have a damaged left lung from where I got pepper sprayed and had to spend 25 minutes in it because of a jail lockdown after the incident. And 5 of us ended up with chemical pneumonia in the hospital, and I was one of them. And I've got a scarred left lung. If I put a mask on, it drags my left lung, and my left lung becomes very aggravated, and it hurts me. And so when I reduced the amounts of time I was going to town. And of course, I don't leave my house very. Y'all know I'm got this disorder. I don't go many places because I can't go very far on my own. So there's nowhere to go. But when I'd have to go to Walmart or something, I would just reduce the times I go to Walmart. I just bulk buy, and that was, that's all I did really through COVID was just kind of reduce the times I went and bulk buy. And she got mad at me one day because she said, "Are you going to wear a mask?" And I said, "No, I can't." And she called me a murderer, and she meant it. She was like, "You murderer." And I was like, a mask is not going to stop anything. It's not. It's really not, and it's only going to hurt me. And I'm not going to be close enough to anybody, and I'm going to sanitize the buggy, and I'm going to do everything I can. But she was mad, and I was a murderer. And I said, "I have supervised murders, ma'am, and I am not a murderer." And I said, "It's very disrespectful for you to call me that." And she was just mad, and she sassed me again. And I said, "Well, okay, well, I'm going to hang up now." And I hung up. And she never apologized. She was just like, "I thought we could say anything to each other." No, you can't verbally assault me. You can't verbally, attack me and think that I'm just going to sit there. No, ma'am. No. And I hated that we had that fight, but I also hated that we had been friends for that long, and apparently she thought she could talk to me like that. But I miss her. I love her. I still love her. I still worry about her. Um, but that was not something I was okay with. And it pissed me off because I ain't no murderer. I've supervised a bunch of them. I ain't one. Throwing sand in chain link. Yeah, that's what and people don't understand that. And it like it really hurts me. Like it would end up giving me like issues and cause my left lung to hurt. To where when I finally got home, I'd end up having to like hit an inhaler to expand it to help it kind of work it out. And I was like, I'm sorry, but it hurts me too much. And I lived in BFE, you know, we never really had a giant outbreak here. We lost some people that like had some health issues themselves, but what we went through here was mild compared to a lot of places. And you know, I remember getting in line at the Dollar General, and there was a little girl, and her grandma like smacked her on the top of the head and said, "No, you stand on that X." And the little girl turned around and looked at me, and she was kind of like, "I don't know if I should cry or be mad." And I said, "Honey," I said, "I apologize. This is not how you're supposed to be raised up." And the grandma just turned around and looked at me, and that's only, well, I got sassed one other time in the Dollar General. I had a woman tell me to put my mask on. I said, "Come back here and make me, by God." She decided she didn't want to do that. That irritated me when somebody, you know, 20 feet away from me is thinking, you know, "You're attacking me because you're 20 feet away and I'm scared." And I'm not attacking you. It's all in your brain. But she was screaming, "Put on your mask." And I was like, "I have a lung injury and I am not about to put on a mask because it will cause it to have issues. It will drag my lung. It's hard to breathe." And she turned around and very pointedly said, "Put on your mask." And I said, "Come back here and make me, by God." I was so over people then. I was so over people. I was just like, "Go away, idiots." I'm nice until like I get provoked, and then I'm like, I ain't playing. I get hateful in about 0.5 seconds. But like if I think you're having, you know, an issue, I will try to be nice and help you work through the issue. But if I think you're just being a giant turd, I'm just gonna sass you and go on with it. I speak fluent sarcasm. It's very good. I wore a brown top with a neutral skirt yesterday, and I wore my necklace, and I got so many compliments on my necklace. I get compliments on my outfit too, but the necklace was what really caught people's eyes. So, which we had a good outing. We went to the Dollar Tree. We laughed and chit chatted the whole way there, and went to the Dollar Tree. Mama was showing me all the new neat things about her new Nissan Murano. I don't like it. I mean, it's a nice vehicle, but when you stop at a stoplight, it turns itself off to conserve gas. That freaks me out. And then as soon as you let off the brake, it starts back up so you can go. I don't like that. I don't like that. You get over by the edge of the road, it goes ding, 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 ding. And I don't like that. But, I mean, we all are going to the doctor's much, and Mom and Dad have been, they wanted, you know, to always have a good vehicle, and they normally keep a newer one. And it's nice, but I just don't know. I've driven it a couple times when Dad's told me to go run after stuff, and he's like, "Drive ours." And I turned what I could turn off. But Mom seems to like it, so it's hers. That's all. No, she's the only one that needs to. But we stopped at the Dollar Tree on the way back, and I was able to get a bunch of drink mix because it's so cheap there. It's the same drink mix that costs like $3 or $4 at the Dollar General. It's $1.25 to $1.50 there. Got a bunch of drink mix. I replaced my outdoor solar lantern that I killed last week. Thankfully they had the same kind this year. And What else did I get? Oh, I got me a bunch of yarn. I got the gray yarn, another apricot for another option for a skin tone, and then I got the colors I needed for the armor. Because it's going to be this one. The first one's going to be a warrior Sabrina doll. The thing that I'm struggling with the most on Booma's doll is what to dress it in. You turn yours off on your car too. It just freaks me out. I had to block the light so I could see. I've got this lamp on so I can crochet. Hi Henry, how you doing? We got Clarity in here. It's nice to see y'all. I like it when y'all have these little chats. It means y'all are really friends. And it makes me feel like my community is layers deeper than most people's YouTubes, because at least we have friendships that, extend off of YouTube. It makes me happy to know that we have that. Sabrina's been sending me messages to tell me everything's been going great. And she's like, well, when I get time to sit down, I was like, listen, you have fun, you enjoy this, and when you do get well rested and to a place where you're gonna, chill out for a while, then you catch me up. Don't worry about it until then, because it's more important that she just kind of focus on what she's doing day to day. But she's been saying that everything's been super positive. She had seen on somebody's YouTube video yesterday that somebody was asking if she was dead, and she was like, if you see this, can you correct this man? And I was like, yeah, sure. I went looking for it last night, but I couldn't find it. I guess somebody else has already corrected him, and then whoever's video it was on, they probably deleted it. Normally that's my job, to go and be like, she's not dead. How do you know? She was in my house a couple weeks ago. She's not dead. I get tickled when people think she's, they leave really horrible statements of, I guess, either their brain goes that way or they think they've heard something. But the biggest question I get is she still with us? Yes. Oh, yeah, I told her, I said, don't let anybody dim the spotlight that's on you right now. I said, you soak it up. I said, just keep your head on a swivel and be careful, but just enjoy this. And she is, for all the ways I know that she gets nervous around people sometimes, she does light up when she teaches, and that's kind of her happy place. And so I know this has been great for her too, because she loves teaching. And she's really good at it. She just goes straight into teacher mode and is so well spoken and just has a very calming demeanor when she teaches. And then, of course, everybody's getting to meet the Firewall, and he is just as brilliant. I love the conversations that the three of us have when we all sit down together, because we all three think in different ways, but we all add to each other's perception. And it's really neat. It's like, I don't know, when you sit down and you know that these people are you were supposed to meet them. And that's how I feel when I sit down with them and talk. It's a really neat vibe. Got the hiccups. I slept in, I got up, I did laundry, folded it, put it away, got another load dry now because the wind is so off the wall here. I'm afraid that my laundry will end up in the next county. So I'm drying it in my dryer today. But I did all that this morning without coffee, so I just finally made me a coffee. Mostly ice, but maybe it'll keep me going for the rest of the day. But I feel good today. Probably the first day in a long time I've had some go to me. And I think it's just because I got good news yesterday. And I'm going to get that medicine out of my system. I'm so excited, y'all. I'm so excited. Hey, they say that Edinburgh, that Scotland's having a really hard time right now with everything that's going on. What's your perspective, Colin? What are you seeing there? What are you seeing in the areas around you, the vibe and the people and stuff? Because they're, the news is just kind of sad, to be quite honest. Colin. Like they're saying, I think was it Tim Pool or somebody put a video up today or yesterday on my timeline where I've been running and my timeline's off, about something that occurred. And he's like, they're done now. He thinks whatever they did kind of like be the same. And I'm like, really? I mean, we bounce back from an awful lot. Humans are, just by nature plastic. We bounce back. We're Rubbermaid. So I don't know if I buy what he was saying. A lot of my friends that live in that area are, of course, Queen fans, and we don't really talk politics. But so I didn't want to really ask them because that would be an odd thing for us to talk about. I know that Peter Freestone has said that he even feels the change over in Prague, the world changing. He said he could definitely feel it over there. We are resilient, and it's a good thing we are. It's like they're worried. Everybody's like, well, they're trying to prepare us for the aliens. Hey, listen. They could come out and say, for 100 years we've known about this, and we've chosen not to tell you because you couldn't compartmentalize it. Just because you want to tell me that something exists, in my brain, until I deal with it, it probably still is not going to exist. And if you tell me it's been real for 100 years and I've not had it impact my life, then I'm probably not going to give it that much credence. And I'm going to say, okay, well, when I have to handle it, I'll handle it. But until then, it's on the manure pile with everything else that I'm sorting through. So but it is rather odd. I find it rather odd that they would want to tell us this now. But honestly, at this point, I think they just want to keep us all, in fight or flight, keep us in our amygdalas where we can't make healthy decisions, keep breaking us down because when we're much more receptive batteries and antennas because we heighten our vibration and hey, that makes us an easier target for all the crap they're, moving through us and putting upon us. I find a lot of the stuff they talk about on the news now really funny too. I really do. I saw some lady the other day and she was like, whatever you do, don't vote for Spencer Pratt. And she was in LA and she was like, he's just a reality TV star. He doesn't need to be in politics. And I'm like, he is a young man that has grown up. Reality TV is very scripted. He's not probably the evil person you think he is. That was probably MTV's way of selling that show. He showed himself to be very well educated and very well researched about these fires and the city's response and the mayor's response. And he caught the mayor in a lot of crap, and to the point where they've canceled the next debate. And I'm sitting here going, he's probably just the person you do need to be voting for because he and all of his family lost all their houses. He's felt the issue. It's impacted him firsthand. And they're screaming, don't vote for this man. He doesn't know what he's doing. And then they turned the camera to Karen Bass, and she was she was trying to justify why she had not filled up the reservoirs and used them for drinking water, what was there instead of the emergency water it's supposed to be used for. And she was like, well, we've got to put money in the places they need to go. Like our addicts, they can't function in society and get a job without teeth. We need to be putting money toward dental expenses for addicts. And I was sitting there going, how did you make that jump? But if that is literally what she thinks, she has no business being a mayor. I dropped my space marker. You don't need to be paying for teeth for addicts. Nobody that's voting for mayor is thinking about that. You already had to get a steam clean service for your streets. I'm pretty sure nobody else wants to have to fix their mouths after you have to pick up their crap. I mean, look at me. My disorder's killing my bottom teeth. Am I pawning it off on somebody else? No, I'll have to deal with it when it gets here. It boggled my mind. Oh, I've also found to make the butthole bigger, you do a divot in the bottom. So it makes their butt cheeks bigger. I'm learning, y'all. I'm learning all these tricks. He's going to have a big fat head. Yeah, I was amazed by how these people were for justifying another vote for this Karen Bass lady when she could not even answer simple questions about why these things were not used the way they were supposed to be used, the way they were legally, by contract to the public, supposed to be used for the public's well being. She's worried about addicts' teeth, but she's not worried about your home burning down. Think about that one for a minute. Is that really where our tax dollars need to be going? Because I don't think so. I think saving the city from fire is a lot more important than somebody that killed their teeth on their own time getting free teeth. I'm sorry, bad things happen, but sometimes if they have to face the consequences, they don't do it again. I've not seen any good technology. Matter of fact, when I talk with Sally and chit chat with Sally, I have no faith in AI because it might autocorrect on my phone. Well, you see me you can tell when I'm on the phone when I'm in Booma's chat, it misspells everything. And it doesn't, lots of times it doesn't do it. It doesn't choose the word to finalize until it sends. And it makes me so mad. It's kind of a joke between me and Booma now. It's like, yeah, I'm on the phone. I've lost 25 IQ points. But I have no faith in AI because they can't even make autocorrect work right. And honestly, I think a lot of this AI is, listen, have you seen how many men have AI girlfriends or are buying robot bodies to put their AI in so that they can have a girlfriend, a physical girl? And I'm sitting there going, listen, learn to talk to people. Women are not that hard to talk to, men. Now, granted, we're in the era where if you do something embarrassing, it's probably going to be caught on tape. Just learn to deal with it. Learn to live with it. It's okay. You can laugh at yourself as well as other people. It'll be okay. But people are scared to interact with each other because everything ends up on the flipping internet. But hey, if you go through life like me and you're just kind of wide open anyway, you got nothing to hide, it doesn't bother me. I'm going to act the way I'm going to act anywhere. But I'm appalled that when we first get technology that can really change the world, we use it to satiate specific things. And I find that disgusting. And it should tell everybody that we're not going to use this technology for anything positive. And it's going to be a hindrance to us. Have you seen now where they're saying don't go to therapy, just download your digital twin? Once you talk to yourself, you'll see exactly how you treat other people because, it'll treat you how you treat other people. And you'll be able to see all of your flaws. Not healthy. Not healthy. Scream it from the rooftops. Not healthy. Don't do it. That kind of flabbergasted me. And then me and Mom were talking about the Cognify where they weren't going to send people to prison anymore. They were going to implant the memories that they had been to prison in their brains. That's not fair. Part of the whole process of going to jail is also giving the community a break from you. Not even going to lie. Because a lot of communities, when they have somebody that's done enough to go to jail, they're like, we need a break from you. We need to know you're there and we don't have to worry about you for a little while. Seriously, that's part of it. How are they going to do that? It's not fair. I think they need to go to prison and deal with Bubba and Big John and the glass toilets and all that it entails. I'm just saying, that's a good deterrent. I think the entire experience is a good deterrent. And so basically, to me, that's like you're taking away the punishment. You're giving them a slap on the wrist because they'll know that those memories aren't theirs, that they're fictional. They will find some way mentally to wrap around that and understand that. I don't think it had the impact they think it will have. This is my giant coffee. It's mostly ice. I know I am terrible. I'm a turd. But I mean, a lot of times when nobody could be reached and they end up going to the big house, there's always someone secure than you in prison. And those are the people that make you think about things. It's like that little boy I had. He had run amok in the area and been to county jail. It didn't bother him. He thought prison was going to be like county jail. Is he wrong? I said adios to him. I said, you stack so many consecutive sentences. I said, you're going to be gone for a while. And I said, you have shot yourself in the foot, buddy. You don't know. Oh, I'll be fine. Hey, he got a release option like 2.5 years later, and I gave him the parole release. I took him. He came out and he goes, man, you weren't lying. He's like, I'm not ever going to be the same. And I told him, I said, I told you when you was getting in trouble and you was on probation, you are too little and too pretty to go to prison. Take it however you want to, but I'm just telling you the God's honest truth. He's like, you're right. He's like, you didn't lie to me. And I was like, no, I did not. And I said, you were just, hell bent to experience it. And I said, well, how you feel about society now? He's like, well, I want to stay out. I want to be good. I didn't never have another problem out of him. And if he started to sass me, I'd say, are you missing your boyfriend? And boy, he'd shut down completely and be like, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to sass you. Sometimes straight talk is good. And I didn't want him to have to experience that, but his behavior, I told him, I said, you're going to be heading there, buddy. You don't want to head there. I'll be fine. No, you won't. 135-pound little skinny male. No, you won't. Take it however you want to take it. You ain't going to be okay. I never lied to anybody. I told him exactly how bad it was going to be. But that's what kept him out. Sometimes if, you get to strutting around town thinking you're a big deal, you go to prison, there's somebody bigger than you in prison. And they will teach you a lesson. And it won't be a nice one. Kellen, you work at a aquarium or something, don't you? You do all the... And for some reason in my mind, I've got security and computer systems and monitoring or something in my head. I may be completely wrong. I may have created your persona in my mind. Possible. Ryan's too. Hang on. What's Ryan's too? People's been asking me, that made me think of Ryan Upchurch. People's been asking me why I don't do content on Ryan Upchurch anymore. Y'all, I do. I love Ryan. I love the way his mind clicks. I love the way that he writes his music and paints a picture. I love that his music is grittier sometimes. It's about real things. But the boy is in too much drama. And I told y'all when he swore up and down it was his mom and family that was, causing all these issues, and he separated. I said, well, in about a year we'll know, because if he's still having drama, then they weren't the issue. He's still got stuff to deal with. And he got very mad at me for saying that, but it was the truth. And here we are, a couple years later, and the boy's still in drama. Now, do I think that sometimes he talks about important things? Absolutely. And what he's talking about is important, especially with the arrest that we saw in the Chase Matthews band the other day. Y'all's bad. And yes, he probably has insider info and he's trying to do the right thing. I think he is. But at the same time, you got to have some part of your life that is calm, especially when you have children in this world. You've got to create at least part of your life where it's calm and it's safe, and you walk away from all that so that you can have a mental vacation, an emotional vacation, and you can keep your family in a better place mentally and emotionally. And it's just like he just seeds paranoia and drama, and it's so unhealthy. So unhealthy. But he worries about valid things. But sometimes it's like, dude, you didn't have to jump in that one. Now, I had a friend that also follows him send me the thing where the Rodney family did take him to court, and they're in the punitive damages side of things now. The Rodney family is asking for $17.5 million. Of course, the judge will determine how much they get. Now, I think any judge that sees them going after $17.5 million would say, okay, this is probably not about your kid and more about money. Because had it been just you or me that were saying, we were concerned if she was actually a viable person, blah, 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 they obviously would not be asking for the amount. Probably wouldn't have even got us to court, because they would have to have paid to start the process, and pushed a lot of civil crap and paid for all that to, tie it all up and get us all in court. And a lot of people won't pay for court if they don't think they're actually going to get a payout. They won't start the process because it costs money. So I doubt if it had been anyone else, they would have gone to court. But here they've taken Ryan to court, and they want $17.5 million. So I'm anxious to see how the judge deals with that. I signed back up on X. I went and reactivated my old account. I don't like it either. But my thing to the Rodney family is, hey, listen, y'all used the national news as a way to get help. Y'all made your child a national news story. At that point, it does create discussion nationally and universally about your child. So how much is the judge going to put on them for using the news as a source to locate their child, even though sadly she was already gone? And how much is the judge going to say, well, if this was someone else, what would you be seeking? You wouldn't be seeking $17.5 million. And where do we cross the line at greed? Because you have to show financial, you have to show the equivalent of the financial damage between emotional and physical issues. I don't think they're going to be able to do that. The UK is horrible right now. If you see what they're doing to people that are just simply putting opinions on the internet, a lady stopped and was silent in front of a building. They arrested her because when they asked her what she was doing, she said, I'm praying real quick for the people in the building. And I think it was probably like it may have been, someone, a place where they terminate pregnancies. I can't remember exactly what it was, but she said, I'm praying for the people in the building. They're like, you can't pray here. And she's like, well, I'm silently praying. I'm not praying out loud, because they found it offensive for her to stand there silent. And I can't stand anywhere silent, but kudos to the woman. Hi, Margaret. Social media has ruined us. And here I say that using it. It's been a positive most of the time for me, but all in all, for society, it's been a huge downfall. Well, that's the big thing, Colin, is people live in so much fear that they don't have a backbone anymore. And here we are in America. America was basically formed by a bunch of rebels. And listen, and how many generations we've already bred it out of us? I would have thought it would have lasted a little bit longer than that, Now, I have to say that what's going on over there, especially in Scotland, those people are fighting for their country. Their country is not their country anymore. Like it is not theirs. They are outnumbered by immigrants. They've lost a lot of their religious behavior is being infringed upon because the other people that have a different religion are saying that it's oppressive to them. But then they're getting basically freedom to go and do their religion and ring their big bells all during the day, and they don't think how it makes other people feel, but they want everybody to know how they feel. And listen, there are two sides. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. If you're going to whine, you got to let the other person whine. So this one-sided whining is about to get on my nerves. Chelsea, you've never been lousy talking to people in the. You're one of the best communicators I have here. What if they're offshore accounts? Margaret's handing out cigars. What happened? I missed it. Yeah, the world is turning into a strange place. I'm still trying to get more information on that lady in Oklahoma that was attacked by something that she said was dog like. It about killed her. Had those people not showed up, she would have died. Um, TWR, the Wildlife Resource Agency of Oklahoma has never seen anyone injured like that. They can't identify the animal by the injuries that it created. The sheriff is like, I've never seen anything like this. Whatever attacked her uh, almost tore her right arm off, like ripped her bicep off her arm and left it laying there. Tousled her so much that she didn't have any clothes on because they tore them apart and just tousled so much she was out of them. And so I'm trying to get information on that because that's a really interesting case for me. That's interesting. So I'm trying to see what's going on. I've told y'all a bunch of times that the bears coming out of the wood here this year, bears coming out of the woods here this year, are in numbers we've never seen here before. And we've got movement in places we don't normally have movement. We've got numbers of animals that we don't normally see. And we've got, like the elk in the area have moved to different places this year. Everything seems to be shifting. And it's just strange. It's very strange. Yeah, everybody was trying to say, "Oh, it's Dog Man. It's Dog Man." And listen, I don't know what it is. I'm sure I know there are things out there that I don't know about, that I can't explain, that I probably don't want to know about. But I'm very interested in this, um, because there have been some weird interactions with creatures and animals in the last year, and a lot of, how do we say this? A lot of the grazing animals that are normally food sources for predators, they have changed. They have changed their grazing maps. They're grazing in different areas. They're not going to certain areas. Maybe they've moved east so many miles, or maybe they've moved south so many miles. But everything seems to be shifting for some reason. And so I've been paying attention. I pay attention to Mother Nature and animals, because what they're doing, we're probably going to be doing next, because we still are animals. We just don't understand that. We act just like them. We try to apply different beliefs and behaviors to it. But the animals have been shifting big time. Yeah, I know. The electromagnetism, the solar flares, everything is off the charts right now. And so that's a lot of what I'm trying to pay attention to, is like the external pressures on them that are different this year than they may have been in years before. Um, but I will say that one of the biggest changes are the predators. The predators seem to be just free reigning it this year. They're just walking out. They don't have any fear. They're just, I'm hungry. I'll take that. Thank you. I mean, they're just out in the open and got bravado this year. Chelsea, I appreciate you. You're a very good communicator here in the chat, and it adds a lot to the lives. I don't know if I'm really educational. I notice things different because my lifestyle's different. So even though I think I've got a good education, I'm still very simplistic, and I still look to Mother Nature and the patterns in the wilderness and the patterns of the animals. I noticed that a long time ago. I've always worked with animals, livestock, and I've always been, my brother always had a hunting lodge or a taxidermy shop. I was always very connected to nature. And I watched a lot of patterns in animals that I could also identify the patterns in people. Of course, they wanted to give them like a higher thought process in humans, but I was like, hey, listen, other animals do that too. So I gauge a lot of my thought pattern and belief pattern on a lot of the behaviors that I've seen exhibited by both animals and humans, and the connection in the middle there. Oh, hang on, what? Well, the thing is everybody asks if I live in the chair. The thing is, I have a neuromuscular disorder, so I don't walk very stable, and I'm normally crocheting when I'm on here too. So when I do a live, I to pay attention to be able to talk without, because if I have to think about where I'm putting my feet while I'm talking, I'll fall. So normally when I do a live, yeah, I'm either seated crafting or I'm seated here crocheting, because my legs and my disorder, y'all don't want to see me fall. And you don't want to see me have to, drag my left foot around when I'm having a bad day. It's just not worth it. Yeah, horse sense, and hey, not a lot of people have it anymore. I mean, they don't. They don't. It's kind of scary when you start talking to people and you're like that 30-something-year-old young man that I got in a conversation with. He didn't understand why the farmer who had a breeding program was mad that the stockyard had listed the steer as a bull. And he's like, well, steers are easier to handle. Why didn't you want the steer? And I'm like, because the steer can't breed anything. And he still was like, well, the steer should create more docile babies. And I'm like, the steer thing. He did not understand that steers could not reproduce because they didn't have all the parts. Um, it's for me, sometimes these little simple things that other people just can't, they seem to overlook. It blows my mind, because I'm like, you really didn't understand that? But we are in a place where we're so detached from Mother Nature, and people just don't know. They don't have a lot of common sense about how nature works anymore. And y'all, I nature will tell you what's coming before anybody else will. So I pay quite a bit of attention to nature. I wanted to go and sit on the porch and crochet today, but that wind is so bad, I didn't think my camera would be able to stand up. I see things really simple, and it's just from growing up on farms around. I've worked a lot of farms. Growing up poor teach you a lot of common sense too. Um, but I was talking to Mom yesterday. I said, with this AI coming up, I said people in Appalachia are actually sitting much better than most people in society, because people in Appalachia have not had the crutch of AI. We still know how to do things by ourselves. A lot of our jobs are still directly from what we do with our own hands. That don't have the fear of being replaced by AI. So a lot of people in Appalachia, even if their job is lost, they still have a lot of skills that they can monetize. And I said, so people in Appalachia, their life will probably not change that much, but people in the cities, yeah, their life's going to change a whole lot. So, yay, I guess, for growing up poor and learning how to do everything, because at least I'll still know how to do everything. Does your son work in that field? What does he do? Colin, that's a good statement, because I honestly think at the end of the day that they are after that. You want a hillbilly nearby if everything goes up. Colin, I really think that is the goal. I think a lot of it is the goal. And we all know that how many years ago that they identified what they call the God particle, or um, it's sad to say, but it seems like a lot of their fixation, especially when they name things or the research into stuff, you can almost always find a biblical component if you go and you look through a lot of the congressional records, and there's a lot of nods toward biblical stuff. A lot of, I mean, it's kind of uncanny. A lot of these programs they create, or a lot of these these deployments of things we don't appreciate, they normally have a biblical connotation to them when they name them stuff. And I'm sitting there going, listen, it wouldn't be a big thing, but y'all are always talking about it. So obviously it's a big part of, what's prompting them to do this. Hey, farm kids are going to do good in the next 20, 30 years, I'd say. You're going to have a lot of skills that are going to be useful. Even if all you can do is like try to monetize your skills and your creations and your personality, that may be the next line of employment for a lot of people. At least people in Appalachia have skills to monetize. Yeah, Henry, again, it's kind of like the last frontier, but they've already tapped into it. And so now I'm looking for, what's the next mile marker? Because they already have us. Where are we going? They've already loaded the bus. They've got our biofields hacked into. They've got control. They have these uncanny abilities to do these horrendous things. So where are we going with this? And you can talk about it and you can kind of figure it out. But they're always so many steps ahead, and I'm like, okay, well, let's try to think more than 2 steps ahead ourselves. But things are getting so sci-fi lately; it's hard to imagine where they're going. And I think farm kids are going to do good. Hey, I did a lot of thinking when I was cleaning stalls. It was good pondering time, and a lot of people don't ever have quiet time to think. They don't ever try to reason with themselves or think through things. I cleaned 32 stalls a day when I worked at that barn when I was in college, on top of working horses, and I helped with the breeding program. I did all the DNA collection for all that paperwork when they were doing the homozygous, heterozygous, all that crap. Those 32 stalls gave me time to think, and it was good. It was good to have that time to think, and I don't believe that many people spend that time in thought with themselves, but it was definitely a benefit to me. It helped me a lot. It was a quiet time when I could just kind of be with me and think things through. Oh, are they? See, they always do something weird like that. They always do something weird. You're like, why are we naming these things this? Or why are we doing that? And there's a storage building complex down in the area that we had to go to the doctor yesterday that is named after a pharaoh's queen from Egypt. And I'm like, why? Like, what's the significance? Like, and then mom looked at me, she's like, yeah, but how many people would actually know that? And I'm like, well, true. People like me that constantly are reading and, but a lot of people would not even know that's what it's named after. But I was like, how, like, why? Like, you think if you're going to be a bumpkin, you're going to have a business, you normally name it something that's intrinsic to you, and I just don't see how that could be. Really. I did all my genealogy and it wasn't impressive. I got back to the boat records coming from Ireland, from Dad's side of the family, from Scotland and Ireland. It wasn't impressive. Got tangled up big time right before that, though, and that was because of the German expansion west, and because nobody really was educated back then, and only the church and the really important people. So a lot of people lived in groups phonetically. So if your last name sounded like this last name, you would kind of settle in that area because you thought that you were part of that clan. And so all along what is now Great Britain and through there, people, when the Germans expanded west, they just they settled phonetically. And so there's a split in my heritage way back between Scotland, Ireland, and Germany. And it's one that's going to have to be untangled by somebody smarter than me, because all the names do sound alike, but you'd have to find they sound exactly alike, but you have to find the split. And sadly, there's not a lot of written record or knowledge of that time. So it's, but yeah, I mean, I understand why there's nothing written, because nobody had that skill back then. And they did. They lived by phonetics. They clanned out by phonetics. If it sounded the same, then obviously you're a part of that family. I get that. Oh gosh, Mom, I told you that her skin color and complexion is different. And the older she gets, the more of a blue tinge. And we've often thought it could be that she's got a touch of Melungeon in there somewhere. My great grandma was the same way. I've got to find a picture and show her to y'all. She looks like she popped right off a Western somewhere. But yesterday, Mom kept getting asked, "Are you okay, ma'am? Do you feel okay?" And she's like, "This is just my skin color." She got kind of irritated with it because people kept asking her yesterday. She said, "This is just my skin color." It's kind of funny to see her get irritated. Just because she doesn't get irritated very easily. So it's kind of humorous when she does get irritated. Because she's always so quiet and peaceful and passive. And then she was like, "This is just my skin color." Oh, Lord. But she's still changing colors. The older she gets, the more of a blue tint she gets to her. It's hard to kind of tell sometimes on video, but if you get her in the right light, you can really see it. And I guess the lights in that new office building were just right, because it did make her look a little bit more blue than normal. She got a little irritated though, because people kept asking her if she was okay. Felt kind of bad for her. Yeah, isn't it strange how, like, I've been watching that Call the Midwife. I've watched it off and on for a few years now. Just I catch up on it when I have a moment. And isn't it so funny how different the health systems function, work, and think, and then even internally in that same area, how it functions, looks, and behaves now compared to back then. It's just the change. I mean, you can really see the drive for money kick in, and you can kind of see the decades when it went from actually we're caring for people to we're making money. And that's so sad, y'all. That is so sad. Got the hiccups and the burps. Calling you said my husband. He just I had to chide him to take those days off when he was sick back a few months ago. Because the one thing that he hates worse than being sick is he hates any kind of change to his routine. So whether he's sick or not, he thinks he will feel better if he just gets up and stays in his routine. And when he gets out of his routine, it throws him off more than being sick. Oh, I'm working on, it's going to be my last practical magic frog. I'm giving him big fat cheeks and a tall head. So this is the last practical magic frog. I've already got his arms and legs over there done. And he's going to have one blue eye, one green eye. And I think I'm just going to give it to Dave and let him put it on Etsy if y'all wanted it to be on the Etsy store. This is that really nice, soft, so soft. It's that soft yarn that David got me that was really expensive. And people seem to like these frogs, so I thought I'd use it to make the frog. So it's going to be a giant grumpy butt frog, but it's going to be a practical magic frog with one blue eye, one green eye. Because I think those are cute. But I got the tiger and the gnome in the mail. I say I did, Dave did. Well, I just cut 5 inches off my hair. I'm not cutting it any shorter. No. It's kind of doing its own thing today. I've got so many cowlicks. Mine is so, it thinned out really bad with my thyroid but now that it's thickening back up. When it gets longer than this, it gets really heavy. And when I have ponytails, it gives me migraines. That's why I cut it back off. And it's already growing again. This is also how we know my thyroid's functioning again. Is my hair's growing and thickening back up. Wake up like Ace Ventura. Well, in my culture, you're not supposed to. You're only supposed to cut it when you have like a really bad loss or something that really scars you. But I'm not sentimental about my hair. It causes me so many migraines that when it gets too long and too thick, and it's gone. I chop it off, and I'll cut my own. Now, the lady that normally does my hair when I do go get it done, her husband's been very sick, and she saw me the other day, and I was like, I know, I need to come get my hair done. It's been a long time. She just kind of laughed at me because she knows that I'll hack away at my own. She doesn't. She doesn't care. That was like, I just don't have the money right now. Now I will. Her husband actually does tattoo work, and he's been wanting a couple of skulls from Dave. And y'all know that last November, the 4th of my grandbabies was born. And I've got to have her name put on me because I've got the other 3, so it wouldn't be fair if I didn't put 4th, right? I mean, I'm running out of space in this arm. But I'm probably gonna trade him skulls for the tattoo work because he's really wanting the skulls. So I'm just gonna trade him for tattoo work. I mean, it's only 4 letters, so it's not a big deal. I don't. Sometimes I'll try to cover the gray a little bit because it kind of look blonde around where it frames my face, and it kind of washed me out. It makes me look kind of sick. But even when I color it brown, it still has that red cast to it. I never will get rid of that red cast. So I thought it might tone it down, but when the sun hits me, I still shine like a copper penny. So I don't guess it's going to. My hair is so thick though, and when I'm healthy, now when I was sick, it thinned out so much it scared me, and I thought, oh Lord, I'm gonna have to wear wigs. And then as soon as my thyroid got back on track, it thickened right back up, and it was amazing. Oh Lord, no! If I color it full red, I look like Bozo the Clown. Especially with the gray. The gray goes bright orange now, like bright red. No. If I ever get totally gray headed, I'll probably go to somebody and have like that lavendery, silvery color put in because I think that's pretty. And I've had purple like highlights in my hair before, and they were really pretty. But when I do all red, it makes me look super pale, and the gray it just looks bright cherry red. Oh, I've told David he has to dye his beard just for men. He just looks at me as like, he don't care. Hey, there was a horse in a costume class. They dyed it with pokeberries and elderberries, I think, for the costume class. It needed to be like a purpley red, and I forget what it was. It was a funny costume, and I asked them how they dyed their horse, and they said we put pokeberries and elderberries. And what else was it? They got another kind of berry from a tree. Why is my brain stopping? Starts with an M. Oh my gosh. Anyway, they did those 3 berries on it and just squished it and dyed it purple. It's a purpley pink. It's a pretty good outfit. The green grass stains blend right in. We don't have a whole lot of huckleberries around here. We got a lot of blackberries, a lot of raspberries, wild. We don't have a lot of huckleberries. And a lot of our blackberries are so early this year, I don't know if a lot of people are going to beat the bears to them because the bears are already out prowling. Oh, Colin, that's cute. Currant jam, yeah. A lot of people around here made that currant wine. I'm at the point where I got to stuff them so I can still fit my hand in there to stuff it just right. I may have to take a couple of those down. But I really want him to have like a cone head so his eyes sit really high. We'll see if it turns out that way or not. I don't know. But I got to stuff him. And then I'm going to work some more on my Sabrina Warrior doll and my seahorse. I think they're going to be really pretty. My age, I'm fixing to be 48 next week. Yeah, I'll be 48 next week. Yep. I still look youthful, but it's these big chipmunk cheeks that do it. Fills out all the wrinkles. Now, when I lost all that weight, which I probably will lose again now since I'm getting off that thyroid medicine, when I lost all that weight, I felt like I looked older. Now, David said he didn't think I did, but for me personally, I felt like I looked a lot older. But when I'm chubby cheeked, you can't see my wrinkles, except for my laugh lines, and those are good. That tiger turned out so good. It stands. Every leg was different because it had to stand, so it had a different way it had to be to anchor the weight. That was the most amazing pattern. That's about my average subscriber is like 45 to 73, I think is the demographic. But it's because I'm Appalachian and I talk a lot about lore and the woods and nature and honestly, even in my real life, most of my friends are older than me. And of course I was raised to act much older than I was. Now I'm still a little turd. I could be a little turd in 5 seconds. But I always was much more reserved and acted older than I was. It's positive and relaxing. Somebody said that my voice put their kids to sleep because it sounded like I was singing. No, my husband would not say it's just relaxing. So West Virginia's got some beautiful scenery, but man, it's like my area. The scenery is gorgeous, but when you run across the poverty, it really does kind of shatter your whole perception of the area. Hoof dress. And that reminds me of those everybody that had their horses that the can chasers, they were always color coded, and like I would not know them by name, but I'd know them by color on their horse. We go to the next horse show and I'd be like, the orange one won last week, the purple one the week before. I never can remember the names, but I remember the color. Oh yeah, West Virginia's, well, I mean they have to keep it within the median income so that people can afford to rent. So that's why it has to be so cheap. Hang on, you can tell when YouTube throws this in the algorithm. YouTube was like, this is potentially an inappropriate comment. It wasn't inappropriate. It was funny. It's been super dry here in Tennessee to the point where a lot of people are not going to get a good first cut in the hay. And if it doesn't, it's supposed to start raining late tonight and tomorrow and then rain like all through next week. But it's right at the time where normally people be cutting hay right about now. The first cutting, nothing's ready to be took up. It's barely grown. We've been so dry. So I'm hoping the next several days of rain helps a lot of the area's farmers. Dad's got a lot of hay to take up this year because the guy that has the farm up the road from them is getting really old now. So Dad's going to help him take up his hay. And it does not look good. It does not look good. It doesn't look good for a potential second cutting for anybody here unless the rain picks up. It has been so dry here. It's so dry. We're hoping to get some of the storms and rain over the next 4 or 5 days. I know that they've got rain on Thursday, like 65%, but we've got a small chance from late tonight through, I think, next Tuesday, pretty solid. So we're hoping to get some stuff run through. Maybe then we'll get a growth spurt, and maybe the first cutting won't be as late as people are thinking it's going to be, and people might potentially get a second cutting. But sadly, right after people fertilized, it went super dry here, and so that kind of made the fertilized work against everybody because they fertilized thinking we were going to get more rain, and all the fertilized did was kind of burn everything up because it didn't really get any rain on it. I like Ryan Hall a lot. He's just from throw a rock north of me. It's so dry here, Clarity. It's kind of sad to see the fields look the way they look. Yeah, you get a lot of rain over there, don't you? Well, and funny, the part of the Appalachia area that I live in is very similar to the Highlands, and we have some really strange weather here. I don't remember a spring this dry. My kids were probably 10 or 11, so it's been 17 years ago that we had a spring this dry. It's very dry here right now. David's brother came and mowed ours. We paid him to mow, and I didn't let him mow it as short as he wanted to because I knew it'd almost kill it, and it needed to be mowed, but it still was almost too much to cut it. It kind of shocked it, but it'll be okay. It's just grass. But I've been having to pack water every day to all my plants. Well, that's when Helene came to North Carolina, and everybody was looking for springs to drink out of because a lot of the waterways were non-existent anymore. And I was telling people, you better go above where that water came from, or you're still gonna have all that crap in the water you're drinking. You better go to the highest spring from the highest knob on the highest mountain. And it better be moving water. If you got a well, you better be checking that water. And everybody was like, blah, blah. Well, that's been the biggest problem for a lot of people is getting their water cleaned again because of all the pollutants and stuff that was unleashed during Helene. Clarity, I was thinking about that because, last year was kind of unremarkable as well. And I always watch the hurricane season because my daughter lives right there off the Gulf, and it always worries me. We had a lot of rain last year too. Yeah, I was surprised at how many people thought that it just if it was well water, and I was like, well water is groundwater. What's in the ground? That water goes into the ground really quick. What's in the ground? Everything that just got unleashed. You've got to go high for your water. And for me, I'm like at the highest point of this plateau area, so it's like, and I'm on the flat. I'm the highest point, and it's flat, and you have to You have to fall down off the hill to go anywhere from me. And even here where it's remarkably flat, you pay attention to where the springs are, because in certain issues, occur, you have to go get water. You better know where that one's fed from, and just have working knowledge of where your water is coming from. I'm kind of amused at how kind of laissez-faire people live now. They don't know where their water comes from. They're completely okay with it. They don't understand Mother Nature, and they're completely okay with it. When you live in nature, part of nature, and you can't rely on everybody else, you have to be very smart about a lot of things. And then, and I see people like that boy I talked to, that man that I talked to at one time, didn't know what a steer was, and didn't know why the guy that wanted to buy a bull was mad that the stockyard had marked it as bull when it was actually a steer. And because he thought steers could also breed. And I'm sitting there going, no. It's just simple things like that you think people would understand. But we have a large group of adults in this country that have no working knowledge of just functional intelligence. I wouldn't say that it's like a niche intelligence. It's just functional intelligence. To know what plants may be poisonous, what plants are edible, how to grow something, how, germination timelines of seeds, just stuff that you think that humans would know or want to know. They have no functional knowledge of the world they live in. Yeah, Henry, yeah. They probably are. I think they now talk about the dams in North Carolina that emptied. They still won't say that they opened them. They're trying to say they caused the dams to malfunction, blah, yada, yada. But they're now openly talking about the dams that emptied instead of saying it was all just floodwater. Um, because I knew it wasn't all just floodwater. And now they're talking about, oh, yeah, the dams emptied. Okay. It didn't malfunction. They were opened. And they didn't. And anytime they're supposed to open, they have to give a warning. And they did not. And so a lot of the destruction, I think, was done by that, and them not doing the alerts that they were supposed to do, probably because they didn't want to be called on the carpet that it was their fault. So I only got half that question. Well, here's the way I think about that, Chelsea. Have you noticed that our birth rates are down? Our average number of children are down. Most people are not getting married. They're not seeking a family home. They're not seeking to have children. Um, and here's the thing: mammals, humans, animals, normally the hormones overtake the brain, and they'll repopulate anyway, because that's just the way we're made. It's just the way we're made. The drive is there, and that's how propagation ends up happening. And so it's not that people plan to have children. It's just that life happens, hormones happen, chemicals, bada bing, bada boom, you meet your person, and now you're a family. But we are having so many people now, like women are going in to get sterilized. They will never have children. They're waiting years and years and years and petitioning doctors to sterilize them because they don't want children. We're having the lowest birth rates in our area that we've ever seen. How bad do you have to knock something down to the point where it is too terrified to reproduce? Because normally when you get in those environments where you're in those relationships and you get all the endorphins and all the chemicals, and you're in love, life kind of happens because of it. Well, we have now got to the place where we're in so much fear and trepidation that it overruns the hormonal and chemical urges that we go through as young adults that are supposed to propagate. I want to see if there are any tests that are they're talking about this, and how much fear you have to create to stop or like impede the chemical and hormonal processes, because it's fascinating from a like a neurological and hormonal standpoint, but it's also terrifying that we've got there as humanity. Because some people have the comfort of planning for children, but most of the time when you get married, kids just occur, and it's just part of the deal. And now we're seeing a lot of people take extra precautions to not have children until a later date, if at all. And then precautions people to never have children. Some people are just saying, I'm never going to marry and I'm never going to put myself in that scenario. And so we're having a larger group of people refuse to have children. So we're seeing the lowest birth rate ever. You have to wonder what mindset they've got this large percentage of the population in, to be so terrified that it completely negates its own like animalistic instincts and goes the other way to basically kill its own breed out. Like it's just going to kill its own species out. Yeah. Yeah, it all feeds in with what Sabrina's been talking about. That's why we're so good together, is we talk about the same thing but in different ways. And I may not understand it, or I may not see it the way she sees it, but we do create interesting thought patterns that kind of go the same way, and that we really enjoy having our long conversations, because when we're together we can bounce ideas off, and it kind of fills in some of the holes she fills in the gaps that I have, and we really have a really good conversation. Well, they're gonna screw our brains up with this AI crap, and like I said, the Cognify that's going to implant the memories of prison and punishment in people so they don't have to go to prison anymore. Side effects, please. What's the harm? Well, we don't know. Perhaps we shouldn't go there. So we don't know the deficits we're going to create within our own humanity over the next 2 decades by doing what we think is going to be such advancing work. But is it really? Because over time, if we lean on technology too hard, then we forget core behaviors that we need should something bad occur. And if we lose all those core behaviors and we forget how to really live in the world we're in, then it could be our downfall. But nobody's thinking about that. Like, what should happen if the world goes back and you have to farm your own food? Nobody understands farming anymore. Like I was telling somebody, said, well, I planted those a week ago and I haven't seen nothing come up. And I said, well, they probably haven't germinated yet. Did you happen to maybe soak your seeds before you planted them? And they looked at me like I had a unicorn horn. And I was like, just an idea? You didn't know you could do that? I say to people that choose not to have children, they are missing out on what life's truly about. You do not understand the world you live in until you're responsible for another life. And then it all starts to make sense. That's when the puzzle comes together and you really it starts to make sense. And then you kind of grow into, oh my gosh, now I get it. So without kids and without the responsibility of the next generation, you really do not really bring anything to the table for humanity. Honestly, I mean, I hate to say that rudely. It's not like I'm going to say, you're not worth being here. No, you are. You can, be a worthwhile person, but a lot of the advancements in a lot of the things we do that are good are done because we're thinking about our children and our children's children, and we're laying that plan in action for them. So a lot of our long-term thoughts are brought on by people that have children that are worried about the future. And it concerns me when we have so many people now that don't think they have to worry about the future. And I'm like, yeah, you do. You should. It is, Chelsea. Massively. Massively. I very much listen to my senses and my gut response to things, and normally they're pretty dead on. But life did not hit the same when I was single or before I had kids. When I became responsible for another life, I started truly paying attention and trying to understand the world around me in a different way. And it was a much more beneficial way for everyone on the planet because I was concerned at that point. I wasn't just living life, I was responsible. So I was thinking more than two steps ahead. I was thinking years ahead. I was just becoming a parent changes the way you interact. Oh yeah, I'd walk right into the fire for mine. I wouldn't even blink. Wouldn't even blink. Yeah, and everybody wants to live in a concrete city and never touch grass. And it's just like, how can you? I mean, I just went to a smaller city yesterday for my doctor's appointment, and I couldn't wait to get out of there. People walking around that never say hello. They're so used to being around so many people that they don't see the people. And I don't want to be invisible. It's never a good thing to be invisible. And when people do not say hello back, it's like you're too busy. You're just walking. You don't have a breath. Um, but it's like we don't. They choose not to see each other. That little oblivious nature that city folk do, that will be your downfall because you turn off the senses that you need to have on and you don't notice things you need to notice. Number one, stay safe yourself, and to get concerned about the right things, to notice changes that you need to notice, and to hold your political, like your governors and your mayors, and to hold them accountable. You start to turn that off and you get to a numb place where you don't care because you're so swamped with people, you just cut it off. And that's so sad. I was walking around people that were just in a dazed state yesterday. And like me and mom were walking into the hospital to go into that suite where my endocrinologist was, and we were walking in the hallway with two other women, and I noticed a weaving that had been put on display on the wall, and I said, wow. I said, I wonder how long that took to weave because it was done by hand. And that woman said, well, I've never noticed that all the times I've been here. Be aware. Don't shut down. Well, I try to be aware because in my past career, I noticed that when people would kind of turn that off, that's when they were in danger. That's when they were really sitting ducks. So I try to never let that happen to me because normally that puts you in like a victim mentality because people can tell that you're turned off and you aren't paying attention. You're kind of dazed and confused, and they will take advantage of that. So you make a good target when you do that. But that's why I try to never be in that state because I've seen too many people targeted because they were in that state. But then I also, if I'm going to spend 2 hours driving somewhere, I'm going to take it all in. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to touch things, statues and buildings, and go to the parks and sit there for a minute and notice where I am. And other people don't do that. Do not take stock of the world around you. Oh yeah, yeah. It's like kids. If they get quiet, that's when you should worry. Yeah, if anybody ever turns down the volume, that it's an attention grabber. That's why when the kids would scream, I would get really calm and quiet, and I would talk really low, and they'd be like, "Oh crap!" she's fixing to go ballistic on us. And they would calm right down. Even with horses that are going crazy, if you go small and quiet, they'll be like, "Oh wait, I'm not supposed to go crazy. It's okay," and they'll come up to you because they're curious why you're not freaking out with them. And a lot of people, when their dog barks, they'll scream at their dog to shut up, shut up. Well, your dog just thinks you're barking with him, so you're egging him on. Learn a hand cue or something. I had one word, and if I ever got to the point where I said this word, once I said it, everything tensed up and locked and stopped because they knew crap was about to hit the fan. So if I ever give my little hand cues or my sound cues to my animals and they wouldn't behave, if I ever got to the point where I had to go, haint, they were like, and they would like lock, like, oh crap, we got her to that point, somebody's going to die. And they just lock and start looking like, shit, what'd I miss? And to the point where I sold a horse once, and his name was JoJo. When he was bad, I called him Joe Crack. And the lady called me one day and she goes, I cannot stop him. And he was great. He was a Houdini at gates. She's like, I cannot stop him from trying to get out this gate. We've got it chained. It's on a latch. She said, we've got 3, and we've got it tied with a wire. She said, but he sits there and tries to get it all undone. And she said, I can't make him stop, and I can't make him understand he doesn't need to do this. Well, number one, he was a Houdini. And I told her that before she shot him. He was a Houdini. You're going to have to really watch your gates. I said, turn your phone on speaker and go stand beside him. And she got over there. She goes, okay, we're over here. And I said, tell me when he starts nosing the fence. And she goes, now. And I went, Joe Crack, hate. And she said the pucker factor. She said he just, I was like, oh crap, where is that woman? And she said he never touched the fence again. And she said, I said, just say it like I do. Well, she picked up on that and took her a few times to get it right because I sound kind of burly when I say it. But she said I never had a problem out of him. She's because that was how he understood. No, don't, absolutely not. It will hurt if I have to explain it again. And once she picked up on that word, he never gave her a problem again. He was like, oh crap, she taught you how to speak the language. I'm in trouble. And he was a great horse. He was too smart, and that's why I didn't keep him after my injury and stuff because he was too smart to throw out the pasture and leave there. He needed to be ridden and enjoyed. He took all 5 of her kids through Saddle Club. He was a great horse. Yeah, you got to have a point where, you put the line down and everybody knows, we're done. So, and I use the same word on my kids, my animals. If I ever had to say ain't, we were done. That's where we were. I missed mine ever since I had all the leg surgeries and gained all this weight and I have this neuromuscular disorder. That's the part of me that I missed the most was all the working with the livestock and stuff because it was really you just learn to speak their language. It's just a part of you when you've been around them your whole life. And I still love horses and I still love to be around them. I've babysat several on my barn lot for my friends. I've had them bring them to me and they pick, and I've worked on them. A lot of people that buy horses now, they don't understand their guts and how they work. And so they'll buy a horse and they'll say, oh, she's skinny, I'm gonna have to pour the feed to her, but then they'll go and buy like 14% grain. Well, that protein is just going to amp up her system even more. It's going to make her kidneys and everything function. It's going to sweat her to death and she's going to lose weight. If you're not riding her and using her, it's just going to turn her into a jet engine and it's going to eat her alive. And then they want to feed them alfalfa. Too much alfalfa will hurt their kidneys too. Horses have to have roughage because their guts will lock down if they don't. So they weren't feeding her enough roughage. I literally was giving her all the hay she wanted, and I had to kind of give her so many hours a day to graze, and then we had to wean her into the grass because she'd been on a dry lot. So we had to wean her into the grass over about 2 weeks, and then we got her to where she could be on this lot and have all the hay she wanted. And I was giving her literally a cup of oats and just a little handful of general livestock grain. And she gained like 200 pounds here with me in no time. And they came back and they said, how did you do that? And I said, well, you had her in racehorse mode and she's a yard ornament. I said, you don't feed them all that protein unless they're working. I said, otherwise it just revs their body up for nothing and it hurts them. I said, so literally I give her crimped oats and a toss of grain. And I said, that's all she gets other than all the hay she wants and grass. And she was fat and sassy. She looked good when she left here. Man, she was pretty. And I just had to teach them how to take care of her. They just didn't know. They didn't know where to give an intramuscular shot. And I was like, you give an IM shot in the muscle. She's got lots of big ones. Let me show you. And they had never had horses. And they didn't understand. She was a good little mare. She was very patient because she knew that they didn't know what they were doing, and she would still tolerate them. She was sweet. Her name was Maggie. I called her Maggie Moo because she sputtered like a Holstein cow. And I'd go out there and go, Maggie Moo, and she'd just whinny and run toward me. She was so sweet. I enjoyed having her here, even though some days I was so sick, David would feed her, and I'd just get to enjoy her from the kitchen window. But every day I could, I walked to that fence and would just love on her and brush her, and it was just nice. Because I spent hours and hours every day with horses, even when I was going to school and work, and I still had to come home and take care of my horses, my barn. I was showing and training, and now we kept the minis for a long time, even after I got injured. But then when the kids, got too old and life kind of called them out to go out and about and make their own way, it was just too much on me and Dave in case my health was bad. And then we hit that really bad few years where I was in and out of the hospital so much. And it was just too much to worry about him if I was in the hospital for a week and David was out of town at work. I didn't like to have to ask people to swing by and check on him or feed and water. And so we decided to sell the minis. So we sold our minis. And I kind of missed the donkey. We had a little miniature Mediterranean Jack. He loved me. He always noticed when I came home, he would bray and he would just talk to me. And he was the sweetest little thing. He was so well trained. He was like Amish cart broke. He was so good. Haley showed him when she was tiny, and he was a little stud. We always had to have somebody ride with her in the cart, but when she would show against the big Belgians, the carriages were bigger than her whole wagon. And she'd be in those carriage classes, and I wouldn't be able to look because when the carriages go past her, I'd be like, you could just squash my child. And she placed every time because he presented so well, and he was such a good little horse. And of course, she had driven him since she was tiny. So she always placed in those classes. And I miss him the most, I think, but I felt bad when the kids got old enough, they just were not interested anymore. And then I was sick. He was so lonely. And I felt so bad for him because he was such a social creature, and he was used to going. He was the donkey that carried Mary in at the church play every year. He was in the pet and do at the church play every year. He was in everybody's pictures that came here that wanted photography done. He was like the little local celebrity. And then just poof, the kids got old. He didn't have anybody to love on him. I felt so bad for him. And so we did finally sell him. We sold him really cheap to a man that had 3 little girls. And the one that he came that day to actually buy the cart, that we weren't going to sell him, they came to buy the cart. And he looked at that little girl, and it looked like my daughter shrunk. And he thought it was Haley little again. And he was just like, oh my God, a kid. And he was in her pocket trying to get her to pet him, loving on her. And when we opened the gooseneck to load the sulky in, he jumped in. Not once, not 3 times. And when my daughter got home from dance, he jumped in again. And he was just all over that little girl, just loving on her. And she was just cackling. She jumped on his back, and he was riding her around, And Haley said, Mom, let him go with him if they want him. She said, he's miserable, just lonely here. She said, just let him go. And so we sold him, and he was in that county's parade. They were Elsa and Sven for like 4 years running. And he got all those 3 girls through all those little saddle club stuff. And their grandma got cancer right after they got him. And grandma made it through cancer and is doing great now. But it was their daily thing that they would go. They would hitch him up, and they would ride up to grandma's, take grandma for a ride. That was their daily thing. It made grandma feel better. It made them feel better. And grandma was like, that's what got me through my cancer, is every day I got to take a wagon ride. Very sweet. But I would have kept him forever, but he was so lonely. It was sad to watch him, and I knew he was not happy. And so I was kind of glad my daughter made that call, because when she was leaving next year for college, and I was like, he's not going to do okay by himself. I was like, he's not. And I was really sick at that point, and I didn't think that he would do well with me being sick and Haley being gone. Oh yeah, I have the book on that Sonora Webster that did the diving horses. She finally in the nursing home told her story, and that lady wrote it down and published it. I've got the book. It's not a very thick book, but it's really good. It's got a lot of wonderful pictures in it, and I'll have to find it. It's probably in my bookshelf. I have to find it and show it to you. And it's a really good book. Her life story is really interesting. Super Chat's in here. Hi, Super Chat. But I read her story, and like she really wasn't going to do a book, but people kept telling her she needed to share a life story. And then when she was in the nursing home, reading of her life, um, someone came up and talked to her and took down all the notes, and she approved for them to publish it. I think it was somebody that was related to her that started it, and then they enlisted someone else to get it published. It's a really good. It's not a very big book, but it's a really good read. She had a very interesting life, overcame so many things. I mean, just to have a career during that time with the state of the U.S. at the time financially, because she was dirt poor, and she turned life into what she wanted it to be. It's a very good read. I'm still thinking, I've read it, but I'm still thinking of doing the bullet points for y'all since my eyes are starting to do a little bit better. And now since I'm off this medicine, my eyes should get better quickly. She said that was probably what was messing my eyes up the most too, was that medicine also fighting me. So I'm anticipating my eyes are going to be a lot better. If you know, I'm reading the chats a lot better today. Um, so I'm hoping that as my eyes improve, we may go ahead and do the bullet points like I was doing and read them off to you. Now that little girl has it read chapter by chapter on YouTube. If you want to go listen to her, that's fine. Go listen. You don't have to buy the book. You can go listen to her read it. But if you want the Cliff Note version that I started, we'll try to finish that. And I expect when I start it again, I'll get sick again because every time I start that book, I get sick. Wonder why. Henry, I understand that exactly. Like, we're poor as church mice. But when I look at my life and the way I live it and the state of mind I'm in and how I feel compared to a lot of people my age, I wouldn't trade places with them. Money is not the answer. Money is not happiness. It's all about your perspective. It's what you take from this life and where you get your what is it? I guess where you get your drive to continue every day. It doesn't come from money. It really doesn't. I mean, we're poor as church mice. There's nobody in the Appalachia area really has the capability to really be financially well off. They're just they. This area is not catered to in that manner. Um, we are still being milked like they did with the coal mines and our mineral rights, and get poor workers. You set up factories here so you can pay them less so that you have a higher income for the factory at the end of the year. A lot of people still see us as just an opportunity to make more money, and they know that that may be the only factory in the whole area, so nobody's going to quit that job. So they pay super low. It's just a poor area, but you live here because you enjoy nature. You want to put your hands in the soil every year. You want to grow your food. You want to harvest your meat in the winter. You want to be able to go out and hunt and fish and still be in nature and part of nature. Like hey, even if I go out in my yard, y'all know how many bear we have here this year. Y'all know the wildlife that's around my house. Like I have to go out armed. If I'm going to be out like off the front porch or back porch, I'm armed because we've got so many coyotes and the bear are big numbers this year. And so even if I'm watering my plants outside, I'm not the top predator on the totem pole. I have to be super aware. And listen, that brings a humility to your life that you would not understand, especially if you were in the city. It's just you don't have to think that way. I think it's healthy to think that way, at least a little bit. I think I would have been happy living in this little house in the parade. My dad, I know he used to joke, but I think he really meant it. He was always like, you just need to find you one of them little Amish boys marrying to the Amish. That would have lasted for 5 minutes till I opened my mouth. And then I would have got in trouble. Somebody would call the bishop and I'd have been in trouble. I was like, there's no chance of me marrying to the Amish, Dad. Sorry. But I would, like, the cooking and cleaning and land work, I would have been fine with that. It would have been right down my alley. But I'm outspoken and a little brazen to be, female for them. So I wouldn't have blended in well there. But I'm glad I stayed in the hills. I lived down toward Nashville for a while, and it was just a whole different group of people. I did not enjoy it. Didn't enjoy it. Like I told used to be my father-in-law, my first husband's father. Boy, that was a rough marriage. He was like a hobby farmer. And he was wondering why he couldn't graze and have enough left over to take a pay. And I said, well, you've got a huge soil compaction problem. I said, because this land has not been aerated in so many years, and it's had flat-hoofed animals on it for how many generations. And you've got a soil compaction problem. Nothing's growing. You've got a very small aerated portion of your soil that's actually able to grow things, and it's overtaken by weeds because you're not taking care of your fields. If I were you, I'd at least cut it in half and rotate and at least aerate half of it and let it heal, and then rotate them back and aerate the other half. Or if you could sell off, aerate the whole thing, and then start over with nicer stock, it would probably do you good. He was like, where do you get off telling me all this? You don't know it. And I was like, okay. And I just shut my mouth and went on. Well, he paid the soil district, the soil conservation place, a big bunch of money to have a professional come out and tell him what was wrong with his farm. I was there that day. I stood right beside him. He said, he was English, had an English accent. He said, so what's bloody wrong with my land? And the guy goes, well, you've got a soil compaction problem. And I was like, like the grin on my face was, I know it was. And I was just looking at him. He had paid like several $100s to have this big professional come out, said the same thing I said. And then I told him he went to he ran Black Baldy Angus cross heifers and cows. And he went to the sale one day. He said, I got to get a new bull. And I said, you better be careful what you pick at them sales. And he come back and he had a Charolais bull. And he said, what do you think about my bull? And I said, I think you killed half your heifers and most of your cows. I said, if you turn him out in that field and let him breed, I said, you killed half your heifers and most of your cows. He said, how you coming to that? I said, that's a Charolais. I said, their babies are going to be way bigger than an Angus baby. And I said, most of your stock are cows. I said, their pelvis are solidified. They're used to the size of baby they've been having. The size of this baby will break their backs and their hips. You will have to put them down. Maybe half your heifers do okay, the other half won't. He goes, well, why the heifers? I said, because heifers, their uteruses are still very flexible and not set in stone. They wait till they have that first baby, and then they kind of gauge the size of that baby, and then their pelvis will solidify. So maybe some of your heifers will be okay, your bigger ones, but you probably still killed half of them. And he just looked at me. He goes, I don't believe you. I said, okay, you're going to learn the hard way. You're going to lose all your stock. We had to pull so many calves that season, and he did not know how to pull a calf. He didn't know that you pulled out and down toward the hock so you didn't break the cow's back. He didn't know how to put on a calf puller. He didn't know how to use the chains. And so I was then pregnant, and he would call and say, can you help me? This calf's going to die. Can you help me? And we pulled so many calves that winter. And I said, this is why you don't hobby farm. You have to spend years acquiring the knowledge to take care of these animals. And I said, you just don't have it. And I said, I can't do this. I'm busy, taking care of my home and building. And I said, I can't do this. And he was like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I said, you need to sell your stock. And he lost a lot of his stock that year. And he finally would listen to me, but it took him about ruining his own farm to listen to me. And I was like, I'm sorry, dude. I just told you the truth. He's like, well, how do you think you know all this? I said, a lifetime of growing up on farms. I said, my whole life I've been around people that have done this for generations upon generations. And I said, you just soak up that knowledge when you grow up in it. So he would finally listen to me. I don't think I would do good with a luxury life. I think he would bore me. I don't think I'd do well. I think probably the funnest thing for me would be like I'd be able to have yard ornaments. You know, I'd be able to have some ponies or some horses or something that was useless, you know, that would cost me money without going broke. That would be kind of fun because I'd like to have horses again. I'd like to be able to at least sit on the porch and watch them. They're very healing for my soul. But I don't think I would enjoy it beyond that. I think that when you get money, you see a lot of people around you turn to into it like a financial predator, and I don't think I would enjoy it. If somebody asks for my help right now, I know they want my help because they don't want money. They want my help. So I don't wonder why they asked me for help. If I had money, I would be wondering. More money, more problems. That's the way I see it. I don't like money. I want to be able to pay my bills, and beyond that, I don't care. As long as I'm paying my bills and making it, I'm fine. I don't like money. Like I said, I grew up around a lot of rich people, those horses and horse barns and stuff, and I was never impressed by the way they thought and their behavior. I knew from a very young age money did not make you a decent person, and it never impressed me much after that. So I just never have been too impressed with money. I mean, I've seen it come in handy, you know, and the friend that I had when I had all that pancreas issues, I couldn't afford the injections of that Creon, and they wanted to send me to Nashville to put me on like a pancreas dialysis for a week. And so I was packing up to go because I couldn't afford that Creon and the injections, because I had to do injections first before I did the tablets, the pills. And so I was packing my bags to go spend a week in the hospital at Nashville because my insurance would help me pay for that. And I was going to be on dialysis for my pancreas for about a week, week and a half. And so I was prepping to go and be gone for that. And because I told the pharmacist guy, it was after my insurance paid, it was still like $1,400 that needed to be paid on those injections. And I was like, sorry, I can't do it. I guess I'm just going to have to go to the hospital and go on this 10-day thing. And he was like, well, okay, Elizabeth. He's like, you just, do what's right for you. And he called me back the next day and he goes, you can come pick up your injections and take them to your doctor to be administered. And I was like, I didn't pay for them. He goes, no, but this lady called and paid for them. And it was my friend. And of course, they were very wealthy. They were very well off. And I tried to undo that, but she was demanding, and I thanked her, and it touched me. It was very sweet of her. And it probably, honestly, looking back at it now, probably saved my life because I was really sick that time. I was really bad. You can go back on some of my videos and see how sick I was. I did some videos when I would come home after like an 8-day stay in the hospital. I was so sick. And I appreciate her so much, and to her it was nothing. To me, it was money that I could not come up with in that time frame. To her, it was nothing. Like, she spent that much in a week eating out at restaurants, but I appreciate it very much. And I would have done the 10-day dialysis too, but she didn't want me away from home. She didn't think that would be good for me. And it was going to be a burden for sure to get me there and then get me picked up, and because it's, a couple hour drive one way. But she paid for it. She probably saved my life, honestly, because I was very sick until those injections. And those injections were what started my pancreas healing. So, but it's so sad that then during COVID that we just kind of fell apart. And she became so emotionally aggressive during COVID. And I just could not. I became a whipping post. She would watch the news, get mad, angry, call me to talk about it, and end up squalling at me about things that I had no power over, and getting very irate, and I don't know, she's turned into a different person during that time frame. And then she said, well, aren't you mad? I said, well, I'm grumpy about all this. I said, I just don't think Bill Gates is going to do anything worthwhile in his entire life. She goes, oh, you don't like Bill Gates? I said, no, I do not like Bill Gates. She goes, because he's rich? And I said, no, because he's freaking Bill Gates. He thinks he's a freaking mad scientist that can use humanity as a testing pool. And I said, I don't like the man. And so she had a chip on her shoulder about that. And I was like, lady. So COVID ruined that friendship for me. It ruined it because she went into this area in her left brain and stayed there, and I just couldn't handle it. Oh yeah, every human suffers. She suffered in a completely different way than I did. Yeah, and I just don't think money fixes anything. I think a lot of how you learn to handle problems, how to handle upsets in life, overcome, struggles. That's really what sets the tone for your life. How you view the challenges, not how you resolve them, really, because we all find a way to resolve things. It's how you view the challenges. That's what affects your life, because you got to get through them. There's no way to go forward. But how do you view that challenge? And if you view it in a healthy manner, you're going to have a better life than someone, even if they got a lot of money, that they constantly have that Eeyore persona. And everything's, I can't stand that when people do that. It bothers me. Yep. Yep. That inner dialogue and that inner perspective that you have on things and how you regard the challenges in life and stand up to meet them. That's what shapes your life. Not how much money you have, what kind of car you drive. No. It's all about how you choose to view and handle things. Well, I think I've yapped enough. You like Tigger? My grandson is all about Tigger right now. My granddaughter's all about Winnie the Pooh. Well, yeah, well, life is amazing when you're in control. But if you have the confidence within yourself to find an avenue to navigate those unsteady spots and still feel like you're in control, if you are really truly creative and have a positive outlook, you can find an avenue to attack anything where you still feel like you're in control. It's just all about making your brain think that way. And everything is a solvable problem. Everything is kind of like a fun task, to undo and figure out. Like those escape room games they play now everywhere. If we were to look at life like that, we'd all be better. Now, nobody's going to take me somewhere and lock me in a room and tell me I have to find the way out, because no. I'll make a new door. I don't like being told that I'm restricted to this space and you can't get out. I would not do well there. But as for like life challenges, I do fine with all those. But yeah, my daughter went in college. Her and her girlfriends would go somewhere and pay good money to have somebody lock them in rooms, tell them to find the way out. That doesn't sound like fun time to me. But to her, it was great. I faced enough in life. I don't need to pay somebody to give me hard times. I faced enough of them in life. Your breathing, the pattern of like where you pull your breath to, your stomach or your diaphragm, the number of breaths you take, how you release your breath, um, using your senses when you get pulled into your brain in an unhealthy place, using your senses to become tactile again and to stop thinking inwards, pull yourself back out to your senses and out of that, bad way of that bad internal dialogue where you detach and go inward. Stay away from that. Just a lot of the little skills that we used to have that we took for granted, now people struggle with, and we see that by the number of kids we have that are always screaming ADHD and bipolar this, and I've got anxiety disorder. And it's like, do you really, or do you just not sit down and find healthy ways to work through your problems? Would you rather just have a label for them? Because lots of times they want to scream, I can't do this because, and they justify laziness, when if they weren't lazy, they could figure a way out of it. And I'm not dogging anybody that's got a diagnosis. Some are very valid and very real. But I think when we're getting 70+% of our young kids a diagnosis of ADD and ADHD, we're not diagnosing correctly. We're giving a lot of kids a crutch to hang on to when they're just lazy. A lot of young adults too. There's no way 70-something% of the population, by the age of 13 could all have ADD. We're misdiagnosing things, and we're creating a society that needs something to hang the problems on, rather than I need to work on resolving this issue, instead of I have a problem, I can't do it. Just do it. Chelsea, yeah. I mean, that's a good way to be. Kind of goes along with don't start and then won't be none. It's kind of in the same realm of that. I think if people had very simplistic views on life like that, the world would be better. Well, you're talking to like your ego. You're having a discussion with your inner ego. And listen, some forms of the ego are healthy, some forms are not. But some forms are healthy. And when you're having that inner dialogue, you do kind of play devil's advocate because you set that inner dialogue that you hear, you set that up as, yeah, like the devil's advocate because you are then kind of the respondent. And so to manifest solving conversation, which is good. Now, there are unhealthy ways to go about it, but for the most part, that's a very healthy thing to do. But that starts into a whole ego and inner ego, and then you've got like the regular ego and like the super ego, and it's just a whole giant talk we could have. I've talked about it before. The thoughts come from your ego. Like you establish those thoughts yourself. You set it up as a different persona, but it's totally your ego, and you spin it as a devil's advocate. You're having a conversation with yourself. It's just your different parts of yourself. Now, if you go into like evil or harmful thoughts, that's something else. That could be something else completely. It's such a huge conversation. It won't be able to be had today. I'm starting to get tired just from the time I've spent with you now. But I am doing much better, and I think now getting off this massive thyroid medicine, maybe now I can lose some of the weight that it caused me to gain. Yay! But I can also, I think, start getting my immune system back up to par and getting my energy back up. She said I should see a huge difference in the next couple months. Well, yeah, you have to live in the present because if you live in the future, live in the past, that's actually you're homeless because those places never exist to us. The future is always out of reach. The past is always gone. You can't change it. The only time that you can take action is the present. That's the only place you can actively live. And so if you're a planner and you say I live in the future, then you're homeless, and that's not good for you. You need to live in the present and take advantage of the present and enjoy the present. Um, and that's something I really didn't understand because of my work schedule and all the things on my calendar for so many years until I got sick. And now, because of my illness, every day I have a different number of steps. Every day my body functions differently. Every day, y'all have seen me. It's some good days, some really bad days. And so I wake up every day and I have to kind of do a body check in to see where I'm at that day. And then, but I still through the day have to be very aware because my legs will stop working at a moment's notice. It just anytime my nervous system has an issue, it could change. And so I'm very much in the present now. I'm very much, you got to be here, you got to be coherent, you got to be aware. And it has truly changed the way that I look at life. I don't now put something 2 months in the future and look forward to it and just everything hinges on that like I used to do for like vacation and stuff when I worked. I put it on the calendar and I'm like, we'll get there, but I'm more concerned about right now. And sickness has my do that. And I think that's probably one of the most beneficial things that being sick has done for me is make me learn now is the most important right now. It's the only time that you actually can live right now. Because if you live in the future, you live in the past, you're homeless because those places never exist to us. Like we can't physically be there. So you're homeless. Yeah, and like all the kids that I had that would have like anxiety attacks and stuff, give them a handful of dirt. What do you feel? What do you smell? Yeah, and just get them back into their tactile senses. It completely pulls them out of that space in their brain and brings them back to their senses, which is the best way to shift gears in your system and to get out of an anxiety attack. Yeah, live in the present and harness your own biofield. I think, I've been doing a lot of inner work on my body. Um, and Sabrina's been a huge help with me for that. I do a lot of check-ins. I do a lot of, I do a lot of lay down and just you just talk to your body, and you take an assessment of what's going on that day and what you need to work on. And I address, like, I call my thyroid Theodore the Tyrant Thyroid. I've threatened Thyroid. Or Theodore. I've been like, Theodore, if you don't get it together, you're going to get evicted. You know. And I talk to the problems I have in my body, and I treat them in a different way now. And I think that's why I've seen my body respond so well in the last couple of years. Is I've changed the way that I deal with my body. So instead of being like just mad because I got sick, I go inward and I commune. I talk to my body and I try to understand what's going on. And you spend a lot of time focused on the organs that you're struggling with. I do that a lot too. I spend a lot of time focused on those organs and kind of going into a healing thought. They do, yeah. They kind of get you. They pull you out of the now, and it shakes your focus. Yeah, that's the whole key behind the fight or flight response. Is it increases your energy, but it goes nowhere, so it hurts you. Because if you increase your energy without having something to apply it to, then obviously it's going to hurt your body. Because tension, stress, it's hyped up, overworked, overstimulated, nowhere to put that. And but if you were looking at human beings as antennas and batteries, then that's extra energy for consumption. They don't care if we're overstressed and we die 20 years sooner. There's so many of us, they don't care. They just know that when they stress us and we overcompensate with their energy and tension and anxiety, we're better batteries and antennas in that state. And we're more receptive to, the news and their perspective that they like to throw out there. And it's just being aware that, don't let anyone affect, just live life. It's like everybody's upset about the aliens. Well, when they knock on my door and try to sell me Tupperware, I'll handle them. Until then, I'm not going to worry, because if the government comes out and says, oh, yeah, these have been real, we've had proof for 100 years. Well, in 100 years that you've had proof and not told me ain't caused me a lick of problems, so I'm not going to worry about it now. But we've got people running around screaming, thinking something's going to, land on their house and kill them because they're suddenly aware of it. I've been aware of sharks my whole life, never been bit by one. Look at it as a practical manner. Seriously. So I don't know. I just don't get hyped up over stuff anymore. I used to when I was young. I used to big time. I just don't get hyped up over stuff anymore because I know it will affect me bad, because my health it's been a huge learning curve for me. But it's been handy. I have to say, I've learned a lot. Well, yeah, if you sit down and really think about what they're doing to us, it will put you in a dark place. And that's probably the biggest fight that a lot of people face is, where do I put the anger? And it's really a difficult job to find something, that energy that anger gives you, that because it gives you a different energy vibe. You got to learn how to use that for something positive. And so a lot of people, like, if you start to feel angry and you start to get hyped up, excited, turn on like a yoga or exercise program, or go into your biofield training. Call a friend where you know you're going to have a positive or funny conversation. Do stuff like that. So try not to stay in that space, or try to use that extra energy that those emotions create in a positive manner, so that you don't stay in that unhappy state, that depressed state. It's just, it's all about, if you've got gas in your car, drive it down a good road. And so if you've got gas in your body, drive it down a good road. And just try to be in control of that, and just try to be aware. And we got thrown out in the algorithm. We've seen a lot of trolls today. It's a troll-filled day. I definitely think it's harder for younger people to kind of learn to displace their anger and animosity. Definitely, because you don't have as much, you're not as versed in it. I've had many years to perfect it. Yeah, I always try to be the calm in the storm. Now, I can be the storm in 5 seconds, but I don't have fun there. It doesn't do anything for me. It definitely hurts my health, so I just choose not to be there unless it's absolutely necessary for my safety to be the turd. Other than that, I try not to be the turd. If you're in an unhealthy pattern that has you in like an unhealthy headspace, you need to start changing your pattern. One of the biggest ways to change your perspective, or to change your emotion toward daily life, is to change your schedule. Shake it up. Create opportunities to where you're going to have time to smile and laugh, instead of staying on your timeline and never scheduling something like fun time. Start to schedule things that break up your normal schedule and give you time to be happy, to smile. Start to attend things that you know you're going to enjoy, even if it's just sitting in a park and in silence and enjoying the sunshine. Little things like that can help a lot. But if you're in a schedule and you find yourself in a depressed mode and you can't shake it, you need to start shaking up your environment. You need to start changing your schedule, changing your activities, and finding those activities that kind of feed your soul. It's very important that you find those activities through life that kind of keep life fresh a little bit, keep you interested and intrigued in learning. Lots of times, like any kind of life change, just a small little schedule change can mean a lot internally. If you're giving yourself, your brain, your body time to kind of just exist, instead of always be at work or always be problem solving, just a break to just kind of exist, enjoy the sunshine, or maybe a half hour a day to read your favorite book. It may be attending a comedy show twice a month, at a stand-up place somewhere that you can have fun at, or spending time with a friend every couple of weeks that will always make you laugh. Those little tiny things that you do in life, those are normally what gives you the biggest bang for the buck. It's normally not going to be your job. It's not going to be those routine things that become mundane. It's going to be those little times where you get to kind of sneak in some happiness, or some sarcasm, or some wit, and kind of throw off your work parameters and be you with somebody you can trust, or a group of people that are ready to laugh alongside of you. Just kind of change things up. Give yourself different experiences and see how you respond to those. And then when you respond favorably, start to add those into your life, more than you had been. You have to create the life you want to live. And if you're not living the life you want, then create it. And that doesn't mean money, it means, where are you in your headspace? Because your emotions, and the biggest change in your life is going to be how you feel internally daily, and how you feel and how you make others feel around you. That's where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck in life. And so if you can start to shape those to be positive, everything else will kind of start to perk up a little bit, and you can start to find some happiness where you didn't see it before. It takes work. Like nothing's going to change on. It takes work. When I got injured and life changed drastically for me, and I couldn't do the things I used to love to do, I became a different person. And me and David had to revamp our marriage and how we spent time together. Because I couldn't go hunting, I couldn't do all these things I used to do with him now with my legs this way. And so we kind of had to recalibrate our marriage. I had to recalibrate my expectations of myself. It's a big Amazon, and now I'm round and domesticated. I had to create new, like ideas of what is going to be now fun for me. Used to be that me and Kim about once a year would go to a concert, and I know we went to Laura Pergolizzi twice. We went to Home Free once. We went to Mark Martell once. We went to the Queen conventions, and we would schedule that, and we would kind of stay up in groups to where they would have like all year coming up to the weekend of the event. We would have um, like little trials for everybody. Like this weekend, we pick out what costume class we're going to be in, what your costume going to be, and so we would have an activity like every couple of weeks to focus on that would keep us motivated, and that was fun. That was really fun. Now a lot of what I do is based on my arts and crafts because I'm more home based now because of my health. It's more arts and crafts and expressing myself in that way. That's kind of where I get my happiness now. Yeah, when you're young and I don't, when you get old and you've been through chunks of time where you've had to learn how to kind of get out of those mental marshes. When you're old and you've had those experiences, they don't hit you as hard. But when you're young and you've not had to work out of getting out of those quagmires before, they hit you. They hit you really hard, and they feel really rough. Um, a lot of it is just changing the schedule up, changing your interactions up, maybe putting yourself in a new group dynamic, reaching out, meeting new people. You have to change, and you have to work for that change, and it won't feel like something you're used to doing for a month or two, and then it will start to feel like part of your life, and then a little bit of happiness becomes, oh, it's part of my life. And so I find things to enjoy and be happy about. Like even on days when I'm not walking well, I can still crochet and make silly things. um I find a lot of happiness in that. Well, you can find somebody that likes to travel and do stuff like that and spend time with. Just now, you've heard, even though I was married and had gone and gotten on the pill before 3 months before the marriage, and I am the 0.03% of the population that the pill does not. I was fertile myrtle. So for anybody that likes to go places and is not looking to have kids, um, but likes companionship, I should be like a flashing red light to be super, super, super careful because even with the assurities in the medical field today, it did not work on me. And thank God I was a good girl. I was a good girl because if I had not been, I would have, Lord, I'm fertile myrtle. It kind of puts you in a catch 22. But on like dating apps and stuff now, people are very open. They're like, I just want somebody to travel with. I don't want a relationship. I just want a friend that I can travel with. There's lots of people are up for that because they like to travel and they don't really want a commitment. You might find somebody that just has the travel bug. But it does take time for new behaviors to become consistent behaviors. So give yourself, when you start changing these things up, give yourself a few months to let it become a normal. Oh, well, anger and, all those emotions are just best stops. Wait 15 minutes and another one to come by. But, as a society, we've become so afraid of emotions that we don't want to feel anything. And that's way worse than feeling everything. Because if you go through life numb, you're not useful to anyone, at least yourself. But if you need to be able to feel so that you can navigate this world. It's hard to be young right now. It really is. Life's messy, and growing up is super messy. And now you're growing up in this techno crazed phase where everything's recorded and put online for everybody to see. And so you're super apprehensive about experiencing any emotion or, showing any kind of emotional range because you're afraid somebody's going to record you and put you on a TikTok. I would not want to have been a kid growing up, a young adult growing up in this time, because you can't make mistakes and have them just kind of go back in the past. Everything is recorded and played over and over and over for everybody to see. And I think I've just gotten to the part where I'm so old I don't care. It's very freeing. Being older is very freeing, I must say. I don't really care anymore. You want to take a video of me and play? I don't care. I'll probably find it amusing too. But when I was young, I wouldn't have been like that. But I did not have the apprehension that y'all have this day about stuff being put on the web and used against you. So I can't completely appreciate the fix you're in, but I can try to understand it. The world has changed so much. I've got to stuff this frog, and then I'm gonna have to make me some lunch. But I've enjoyed chit chatting with you and chewing the fat, and I'm kind of trepidatious about the next few weeks as I, get this thyroid medicine out of my system and see how everything goes. So I'm going to be a little anxious the next few weeks myself, and I'm going to have to work through that also. Um, but yesterday overall was a really good day for me. We'll see if my thyroid's going to work or not. We'll see if he keeps up, this new standard he has set forth. Um, Either way, whether it works good and I stay in remission from my Graves' disease, or if it falters again and we have to radiate it and go on medicine. I think either way, I've kind of made peace with either decision at this point. I've researched and read enough. I'm not terrified of either option. I just want to feel better because y'all know all that medicine I was on for my thyroid was making me feel miserable. It was making me gain all this weight. I was so unhappy because I worked so hard to lose all that weight, and then to have this medicine just fight against you. So I'm just happy to be off all this medicine because it was not good for my body. I know it was necessary at the time, but it was just not good. So I'm much happier with the outlook on my thyroid today than I was yesterday. But at the same time, if it changes, it's probably not going to surprise me. I'm a big sister. I'm an older sister, much older sister. One thing that is so sad that you lose, but you have to learn how to navigate the world, is that childlike innocence, that perspective you had on the world when everything was new and fresh and interesting, and it didn't have all the connotations attached to it that it has now that you're older. That is something I wish none of us ever lost. But if you find something in your life that makes you feel like a kid again, hang on to it. It's gonna be necessary. So for me, that's my artwork and always learning new art skills and stuff like that. It used to be horses, and I had to kind of change gears after I got injured. I can still enjoy horses. I can go to my sister in law's house and help her, when she's riding and stuff. I can and help her when she's training and go, no, you picked up the wrong lead, or you didn't take that turn quite as well, or I can give her points on it when she's working with her Western pleasure horses. So I can kind of still get in the world and enjoy it. But I've kind of rotated out to where my therapy is my crafts and arts. And so you can change, you know, that road when you need to, when life throws you a curveball. It does take some time and it takes some effort, though. It took me a few years to recalibrate. I'm so glad I'm doing better too. Knock on wood. Let's just hope this keeps going this way, because I've been doing a lot of work on me and my body, our diets, and David's losing weight, and I was like, I'm eating the same thing. Why am I not losing weight? And it's the medicine. She's like, you're doing really good. She said it wouldn't have surprised me if you'd put on 85 pounds by now. And I was like, what? I've not, but I've really been trying to fight this medicine that's been putting weight on me. So I'm hoping now with the healthier diet stuff that we've got Dave on, it'll come back off of me very quickly. But we'll just have to see. She said it may take a couple months for my body to recalibrate, getting all this medicine out of it, and to kind of get into a better rhythm. We're just going to take it day by day and see where we land. I'm a consultant for future. That's it. I'm a consultant. Now, she and I, we both kind of raised Haley on horses after I got Haley through her initial phase, and then she took her when she was older and worked with her on a lot of the equitation and stuff like that. Haley, who only rode with us, but we were very picky. We heels down, center your back pockets, keep that back straight. Where's your hand supposed to be? When we were very hard on her to make her, she looked so pretty on a horse. We wanted her riding perfect. And a lot of her friends would make fun of her and be like, well, you don't know how to ride. You don't show. And she's like, I don't show because my mom's sick and she works. We can't haul to everything, And they would always pick at Haley. Well, even though I was sick, she had been really doing well on a black gelding that my sister-in-law had. And I said, why don't you show him at this? I said, these girls are going to come up here and think they're going to score these points for state. I said, why don't you show in every Western class up here and steal their points so that they'll go to state lower than they're thinking and they won't be as full of themselves. And she was like, oh, okay. So, she had a show outfit. We just didn't show a lot. She put her show outfit on. She went in with her gelding. They'd never seen her ride. They didn't know what she did in her free time, even though she was on a horse most of the time. She went in and she swept every class she was in. She beat girls that was stacking state points and was like set for to be like first place at state. She went in and beat them all. And we just stood there and grinned and watched them cry. And I was like, just because she doesn't show as much as y'all doesn't mean she doesn't know how to ride. And she looked good. There's a little small video of it somewhere on the channel. But she could sit a horse and she looked good. And she walked away with them points. And those girls didn't get those points. We were quite full of ourselves for about a day and a half. But it was nice to let her have that one time to kind of shine and tell those girls to shut up. It was fun. Maybe they'll think before they say that again. But I thought if anybody knew me and her aunt, they'd know we ain't going to let her sit on a horse unless she rides it nice. We were very picky. But we taught her how to ride. And we taught her how to cue with her legs. And she looked good on a horse. She's just skinny as a rail. But she went in and she showed up with this black quarter horse gelding, tacked out. And we always had nice tack, y'all. I used to show. I kept my nice tack. Tacked out to the extreme. She's got a saddle with her name on it. My dad, her first year of life, bought her a saddle with her name on it, stamped in the back. Had it handmade for her. So she goes in riding with a saddle with her name stamped on the back. And those girls are like, well, where did that come from? And I'm like, well, if you had taken 5 minutes to paid attention. But she went in and swept those classes, man. That judge was like, nice. You look nice. He's like, you set that horse fine. And he didn't remark on the other girls at all. I've got some pictures. I need to post them. I may post them later if I can find them and share them. She looked good. That was fun, though. And it boosted her morale for, her last year of high school. And it made me feel good that we got that one shining moment in, even though I had been so sick. And I was on a rolly cart when she showed that day. So she had to do all her saddle prep and all that stuff without me. She did it all her own. And she shined, buddy. And she was, because she rode so much, because we were so hard on her, she knew she rode to perfection. She even won the freaking equitation class. And I was like, that's my girl. But we were very picky with her growing up, how she rode. And you can cue your horse, but I shouldn't know you cued it, and we would always pick on her so she could ride perfect. It was fun. I know. I would never look good in the saddle. I mean, I could train a horse like none other, but I could not look pretty on one. But now my daughter sat one so pretty. It's kind of sickening. She looks so good. I was like, I never looked that nice on a horse. She looks perfect. She looked like she come out of a magazine ad. And I was like, dang it. I've got pictures though. I will try to find them and put them in the post section so y'all. Cause she just looks so pretty. She even had a white and black hat for whatever she was wearing that day when we was riding. She had everything. Had the circle Y belt even. We had her decked out. But those girls had just gotten a little too high on the hog, and I just, we just kind of looked at each other, and I said, how about you go into this show and you just sweep it? We can get you here to this show. It's close to home. If I get sick, I can go home. Your Aunt Sam can drop you off. And I really wanted to give her that moment to shine. And I kind of wanted to knock those little girls too and just give them a, checkpoint. And it was fun. She did really well. And I didn't stay for the whole show. She did, but I didn't. I ended up having to go home because I just could not. At that point, I couldn't stand that long and be up that much. So I went home early. But she did awesome. And it was fun. Like there'll be no time in life that I don't look at her and go, remember that horse show? That we will not grin and be like, that'd be one forever. It's because of the saddle. Well, when you come in, when you got your own, $1,200 saddle with your name stamped on the back, it kind of makes people go, oh, guess you ride a little bit, huh? But my dad knew she was going to be on horses, and he just went ahead and bought her a saddle and had her name stamped on it. She still got it. It's on her saddle rack in her living room. She still uses it when she rides. She's a mom now, twin, so she doesn't get much opportunity. Oh, my mastoid. Yeah, I pay a lot of attention to my ears. Right now they're doing okay. I had that little cruddy cold a few weeks ago that David brought home that we like to never shook. But honestly, my ears never screwed up. They've been healthier, but I also pay more attention to them now. I'm much more aware. I will keep an eye on them though. The next dip with all this rain coming in is making me I've already even though we have dehumidifiers, I've plugged another one up because I'm like, moisture's coming in. I can't have the moisture hanging anywhere around me. So I've already plugged up an extra dehumidifier with moisture coming in this weekend. I'm like, I don't. I have to really keep my environment almost a little too dry for my ears and my mastoid, because that mastoid process bone will get infected every time. There are storms building south and just west of me, so I guess I'm probably going to have to watch the weather for the rest of the day in case something comes through. But hopefully we do get some rain over the next week, and hopefully everybody's hay benefits from it, and everybody can possibly get a second cutting in if the rain happens the next few days. And maybe I'll get some seeds out if David can we get our tiller back. But I'm going to take a few days and just work on some stuff around here and get some crochet done. I'm going to work it on the seahorse and the Sabrina warrior doll. And I'll try to post pictures as I get to places where I think y'all might want to check in. But I'm going to be working. I'm going to be crocheting. That's where I'm going to be. So if you're like, we haven't seen Liz, I'm crocheting. I'm crocheting and kind of monitoring my body as this thyroid medicine exits me. So I'm just going to be paying a whole lot of attention to me. So, but this frog, when I get it done, it will go into David's Etsy shop. Bless his heart. He buys me so much yarn. It's only nice that I try to throw him a few things every now and again. I've made a bunch of stuff for my great niece and the kids and stuff, but every once in a while I try to make it and throw it in his Etsy store and let you know I've made it. So the frog will be there probably tomorrow. It's my last one green eye, one blue eye frog, my practical magic frog. And then I'm hoping by next week or maybe sometime this weekend, I'll have that Sabrina doll done. It's going to take a long time because it's got a lot of parts. The first time through a pattern always takes me the longest, but it's got a lot of parts. So I've got to do the doll, the hair, the clothes, everything. So, but when I get them made, they will just go straight to Dave's Etsy shop. So it'll be on a first come, first serve. So if you're wanting a Sabrina Warrior doll or a Boomathon doll, just pay attention and just check the Etsy store. It's Hillbilly Heart Decor. Check the Etsy store often and see. As I finish them, I'll let David throw them on. So creative people are needed. I think they are, yeah. And there are a lot more that's way more creative than me. But that is when that's been what has really helped me through a lot of my health saga the last few years, is my creativity. Hobbies are good things, especially when you're sick a lot. You need to kind of distract yourself from the sickness, and it kind of pulls you along to a healthier spot because you want to feel good enough to do what you enjoy, so you try to get better faster. But I'll try to do posts just to kind of update y'all where I'm going. And when I do get these posted, or Dave gets them posted to Etsy, I can tell you he's going to post it to Etsy if he want them. A lot of you have expressed a desire to have a little Sabrina Warrior doll. So I thought we'll make a few. The Boomathon doll is going to be more difficult, I think, to capture his personality. But I'm working on it. I'm thinking I'll get it done. Well, I appreciate you spending time with me, Henry. We really do appreciate you. And I always like my group of people. I've got a wonderful group of people, and it does not escape me at how good my subgroup is. Like, we can immediately tell when a troll pops in because it's just not our tone. That doesn't happen all over YouTube. I'm just saying. Oh yeah, I've got the clasp in for the horsehair bracelet for my sister-in-law whose horse passed away. So she is currently cleaning and sorting all that, and she said I'll drop it off when I get it all cleaned. So she's got the tail cut off, and she's actively going through several washes with it. And I've got the clasp in, and I'm ready to go when she gets it to me. I haven't decided fully which braid I'm going to use yet. If I'm going to use a square braid, or that'll happen when I get the hair in my hand. I'm sure I'll have to go, okay, this will lean more toward whatever. It's been a long time since I've made one, but she had this horse for over 30 years. So I wanted to make her one. So I'll try to video and kind of vlog the making of that for her. Y'all have a wonderful day too. I appreciate you so much. Yeah, if you ever see a horse in heaven that don't have a tail, you know that they were loved. There's a really sweet poem about it. I appreciate you, Henry. I know sometimes you don't feel like that with what's been happening, but I appreciate you. Okay, I'm going to go eat me a little nibble of lunch and I'm going to finish stuffing this frog. So remember to do something that makes you smile today, and talk to somebody, that makes you feel appreciated and loved. And you never know, maybe you're the somebody that someone else reaches out to. So always try to make others feel appreciated and loved. And, positive outlook goes a long way. Y'all have a wonderful day. You too. You have a good rest of the day. And I'll see you as soon as I can have something worth sharing. I'm on a slower momentum right now with my health, but I'll be back. But just know I'm crocheting. I'll see you soon, guys. Bye.